Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. The manhwa starts with blood on the floor in the middle of a prison. We see a woman asking a man where something is. The man is clearly heavily injured, and she points her blade at him, asking him again where it is. He then lets out a sigh and says who would have guessed that this woman, the direct bloodline disciple of the Sword Supreme, was someone so powerful that she could slay hundreds of demonic humans. As we see her doing just that, he says that it took her just one attack. Her name is Divine Blade. Why Sola, and she is the one who ended up killing the heavenly demon as we see her piercing their chest with her blade, and then cutting them in half. We learn that the heavenly demon caused the Great Orthodox Demon War. She grabs the man by his shirt, saying that she's sure he knows where the remaining demonic humans went, and if he has even an inkling of guilt, he should tell her. Obviously, the man does know, but he can't speak due to his vocal cords being destroyed. We see a seal on his heart, and he says that this bind stops him from speaking anyway. Sol-Ah begins to cry, saying it's his last chance and that everybody wants him dead, but if he helps, she'll do everything she can to save him. We see her shaking while crying more as she pleads for him to please help. He wonders if it's due to the hatred she has for demonic humans, but says that it's most likely due to the meteor blade Jang Shonian, her fiancé who was kidnapped by the demonic humans. He starts to laugh, saying that's ridiculous, and this woman is stronger than anybody in the world, yet is this anxious because of one man? We see her sadness turn to that of anger instead, as she lifts the man up by his shirt, and throws him onto the floor, saying that if she had known he was this vile, she would have killed him when they first met, and she regrets not having done that so much. The man wonders when she thinks the first time they met was, saying it's probably different from what he remembers, as we see them when they were kids, and she tried to offer him a potato, and he wonders where things went so wrong. We learn that he was a traitor who stabbed countless people in the back after siding with the demonic humans, and he's sure that this is just karma catching up with him. She continues to cry while leaving his cell, and then hears scratching on the floor, and is curious so she turns around to see him drawing, and we learn that his name is Gu Young-chun. She asks what he is doing. We see his chest beginning to swell up as he vomits a lot of blood, and he explains that it is the curse placed upon him. He starts to use his blood as ink, and we learn that if he breaks the conditions, his heart will explode, killing him. And that it is called the heavenly demon's demonic art, which forces somebody to be loyal. She starts screaming out his name, and puts her hand on his back, but to him, her voice is too muffled to understand what she's saying. He wonders what she would do if he told her that he was framed and that none of it was from his own volition, and he wonders if she would believe him. We see him continue drawing, and he says that it's not like he has those excuses to give anyway. She's surprised by what he drew, and he says there's no point worrying anymore and that he is done as he finishes writing his sentence. We see his body begin to contort as his heart has exploded inside of his chest, and he says he is done. We see him starting to lose consciousness, and he wonders why he lived this kind of life in the first place. We see him hiding away with a woman, and that she's clearly injured. She reaches her hand out, touching his face, and we learn that it's his sister who smiles, telling him to be happy. Sol-Ah continues yelling out to him, asking him if he can understand her, but Young-chun is too lost in thought, wondering about the regrets that he has built up to make his life. It jumps to yet another woman inside of some sort of cave, and we see somebody walking towards her. The man stands before her, and the woman asks if it's him, and then she begins to apologize as we see her. She has lost her eyesight. It's another flashback, and we see Young-chun making a sad face. This must be another one of his regrets. Sol-Ah keeps calling out to him, and begins to cry as the tears drop on his cheeks. He says everything in life has been nothing but regret, and he flashes back one more time to a woman asking if he is crying, and he tells her that it's just the rain. She laughs, saying that she understands, and asks him if the moon has risen yet. He says yes, and that it's up there, and she smiles saying both are here then, and that's good. Then we see her hand go limp, as she succumbs to her injuries. We learn that Young-chun was born in a renowned clan of the Orthodox faction, and lived most of his life as an Orthodox martial artist before betraying them and turning to the demonic side. But the demonic cult lost the Great Orthodox Demon War, and Gu Young-chun was tortured as a prisoner of war before he ended up also dying due to the effects of the curse as we see him close his eyes. He then starts to hear a little girl asking him if he wants a potato, multiple times, and that it's a little girl trying to give him a steamed potato. Young-chun is completely taken aback. Young-chun says that he's sure he violated the curse, and that his heart had exploded, which caused him to die inside of Sol-Ah's arms. But yet, he feels his heart beating normally, as if nothing happened. Besides that, judging from his small and clean hands, he seems to be much younger, and he says that it must be a dream. And he looks over, wondering why it's the first time that he met Sol Ah. He looks at her potato and wonders what he said the last time. We see that he knocked the potato out of her hands, causing it to get all dirty, and then stomped on it in front of her, asking how dare she get near him, and that she needs to know her place. He sighs, asking why he said that, and smiles, saying that if he's dreaming about this, then he must regret it quite a bit. Sol Ah looks a bit scared, asking if he doesn't like potatoes, but he takes it, smiling, telling her that he'll enjoy it, and then takes a bite out of it, only to burn his tongue, asking why it feels so hot even though it's a dream. Sol Ah laughs and tells him that his face has turned red. We then hear a man calling out to him while running over. He says that he suddenly disappeared, and that he looked all over for him. Young Chun says that it's his bodyguard. He recalls his name being Muyin. Muyin says that he was worried, he thought something had happened, and then sees his tongue all burnt, as well as the steaming potato. He goes to draw his blade, but Young Chun tells him that it's fine, and to give it. Muyin is confused, asking what he's talking about, and Young Chun says to give the honey cookie that he knows he has. Muyin takes it out and gives it to him, saying that it's the last one, and Young Chun asks Sol Ah if she wants it. She's surprised, asking if it's really for her, and he says yes, and he smiles, telling her that he received a delicious potato, yet this is the only thing he can give her, and laughs. She looks at it, saying it's her first time seeing anything like it, and that it looks really sweet. Then we hear someone calling out to her, and everybody looks over to see who it is, and we see that it is her grandfather, who looks worried. He hugs her, glad that she is safe, and he says that he told her not to let go of his hand, and she says it's okay, and she even got potatoes. He tells her that the potatoes aren't the problem, asking if she's hurt anywhere. Young Chun is surprised, and recognizes the old man, and Sol Ah says that she gave a potato to him. Gramps feels something, and grabs her hand, dragging her over in front of Young Chun, and bows, saying that his granddaughter doesn't know the ways of the world, and committed a serious offense against the young master, and that he's sorry if she offended him. Young Chun says it's fine, and if anything, he is the one expressing his thanks. He puts his hands together in a respectful gesture, and also bows his head, saying that he just happened to get hungry, and thankfully she gave him a potato. The only thing he can repay her with is a honey cookie, asking if it's okay for her to take it. Gramps looks down at it, and goes to ask him if he's sure, but Sol Ah cuts him off, saying that she is, and starts to grab it, saying that it's so shiny. But her grandpa says absolutely not, and that they can't accept something so precious, and runs away, saying that they won't bother Young Chun anymore. Young Chun pleads, telling him to wait, and Gramps asks if he's still angry, saying he can take it out on him, but Young Chun gives her the cookie, saying that this is his answer, and he'll see her later. We see her drooling out the mouth, while Gramps seems suspicious. We see Sol Ah trying to give him more potatoes, and Gramps smiles, saying that she's finally found him. Not sure what this means. We see Sol Ah waving bye to him, and Young Chun seems happy, and then lets out a sigh, and looks very tired instantly. Muyin asks if he's feeling uncomfortable somewhere, and Young Chun explains that her grandpa is the person who held the position of the Murim Alliance leader until just a while ago, and was hailed as one of the strongest in Murim. Spreading fear and terror amongst the unorthodox members, he is the Sword Supreme, Hyogun, and he wonders what he is doing in such a place, saying that even if it's a dream, he was almost killed, and he sees Sol Ah waving bye, while she has potato crumbs on her face. He sighs, as he is pleased with how the dream turned out. Muyin then tells him that they need to head back now, and Young Chun says that he's ready to go, and he no longer regrets how he treated her, and it's time to wake up now. Then we see them arriving at his house, and Muyin tells him they're here. Young Chun looks confused, wondering why the dream isn't over, saying that if it's a dream, he should definitely wake up, and if it's not a dream, he wonders if it's related to the curse that was placed upon him by the heavenly demon. We hear a girl saying fascinating, and Young Chun turns, as we see her saying that she didn't think he'd come back home instead of running away, even though their father is coming home. Young Chun says that this is the flame sword, Guyonseo, his second older sister, and more than anyone she despised him the most. He realizes that since everybody is here, they are gathered because his father is coming home, and Yonseo asks him what he's doing this time, saying that if he's planning something, that he needs to end it here and screw off. He tells her that he's only here because he has to be. She gets annoyed by his response, saying that he's never shown his face until now. He says that that is indeed his fault, and he'll apologize to the clan head later. Muyin is surprised, but we see Yonseo is still angry, and she yells out his name, while releasing her aura, shattering the ground below her, as she walks towards him. She says that she doesn't know what trick he is planning on pulling this time, and it would be good to stop now, as she is starting to get really angry. She keeps chewing him out, and he tells her to wait, saying that their father is coming, as we see a horse arrive, and a man sitting atop it, who asks them what is going on. We see everybody respectfully bowing to the clan head, and he looks down at Young Chun, who glances back up at him nervously. We see his father making a curious expression, and he calls out to the minister, asking him if he has a sword unit that's prepared. The minister says that the first sword unit has been resting after coming back, and the fourth sword unit is currently preparing. The clan head tells him to rush the fourth sword unit and come find him. Young Chun says he doesn't know if this is a dream or reality anymore, but that gaze is as burdensome as ever. As his father continues to walk away, he says as for the third child, once the meal is over he needs to come to his room. Young Chun looks worried and asks Muyin if he has any digestive pills. Later that night, we see them inside the banquet hall as they have been given food. Young Chun says the atmosphere here is the same as ever, and he can't tell whether he's eating through his lips or nose, whatever the hell that means. He says it's uncomfortable enough that he called him separately, so it would be great if somebody could do something about the atmosphere here. His father then calls out to Yonseo, saying that he heard she had an achievement in martial arts, and she smiles, saying yes. She became a 3-star a few days ago. He calls her advanced for her age, saying it's good to see that, and she needs to continue devoting herself. She bows and thanks him, and Young Chun says that it is actually quite impressive. But it makes sense as she is very talented and hardworking and didn't realize that she knew how to smile, saying that she looks better when she is smiling. But he instantly takes it back as she starts mugging him. His father then calls out to him, which surprises him, and says that he heard he went out on the streets. Young Chun says yes. He had something to do, so he briefly went out. His father thinks about something, and then sits up, saying that he will go first and they can finish eating. He says that his father looked like he wanted to say something, and he's sure he will mention it after the meal. A girl then tells Young Chun that the clan head says to rest well today and to come to his room tomorrow instead. Young Chun wonders what's with the change. We see Young Chun glaring out his window, saying that seeing as he still hasn't woken up, it's not a dream, and that this is regression, which he has heard about before. He takes his hand off his face and starts to clench his fist, saying that maybe this means he will be able to kill the heavenly demon first, but realizes that's absurd. Asking how he could kill the heavenly demon when they killed all 3 supremes who were said to be above the heavens. When he thinks about his past life living as a demonic human and all of the bad things he did. Living like a dog. It's no wonder why he has nothing but regrets left inside. But it's not like it was worthless, as he realized so many things from it. If he has been truly reborn, he wants to choose a different life. The heavenly demon will be killed by Sola anyways, and the demonic cult will disappear as well. Until everything is resolved, he just wants to live a quiet life doing what he can, and that he can't miss this opportunity, so he can stop himself from making the same regrets. He sighs, saying the first thing he needs to do is start improving. He takes a deep breath, channeling the energy into his core as we see it blaze up. He laughs, saying that he searched his entire body, yet this is all of the internal energy he managed to find. And seeing how pathetic it is, it makes him realize how much more incredible his sister is, as she's already a 3-star. He says it's not like he doesn't have options. He can train with the cultivation technique only passed down to the blood relatives of the Gu clan called the Gu Flame Will Arts. By cultivating slowly, as if he's blooming a flower. Once he becomes a 4-star, he'll be able to emit flaming internal energy. And when he becomes a 7-star, he'll be able to wrap it around his body, as we see him using his father as an example. And he says right now he is just a mere 1-star, and he needs to gather as much energy as quickly as he can and polish it to raise his level. This is the only way for him to live a smooth life, unlike his past life, and he shouldn't be borrowing the power of demonic humans, but instead focusing on increasing his own. We see him cultivating his energy as it starts spiraling towards his core. And he says that the problem here is that if he tries it, he might die as we see him straining. And he loses focus, which causes all the energy to disperse. Then he falls down onto the bed, gassed out, saying that this shit is rough. And with his current abilities, using internal energy isn't easy. If he keeps going, he might actually suffer from energy deviation. Then he grins, saying that he's still got results, as we see him full-blown smiling now. As his core takes a different shape, he explains that he has become a 2-star. Even though it's the early stages. If he just keeps going step by step, slowly building his foundations, he'll have a completely different life from his past one. And he doesn't plan on doing anything that will have a negative influence on his future either. The next morning, we hear a bird chirping, which wakes him up, and he still looks out of it, asking how it makes sense that his whole body aches just from that little bit of training. He says it's his fault for neglecting it until now, and he has a long path ahead of him. And then he'll go to his father's room in the afternoon. So until then, he wants to go train. As soon as he opens his door, we see a familiar face on his porch as Sol-Ah waves. Her eyes shine brightly, and she tells him hi. We see some man looking up at the sky as another man asks what he's looking at. The man says that's not a star, wondering if that was there before. As we see a rift open up, the man is surprised. Apparently, this is the typical gate manhwa with dungeons, but inside of a Muram world, which I don't think anybody was expecting. Kinda wild. It's the typical monsters broke through the rifts, which became known as gates, and each sect worked to raise groups that could fight against the monsters, also known as sword units. Every sect needed to have one, and the Gu clan had 5. The eldest sister, Gu Hui Bai, was the unit commander of the 5th sword unit, and he, a troublemaker, spent half of his life under her command. She was in one of his flashbacks. We see him being dragged away by her, and that was where he formally met Sol-Ah. Meeting her after the potato incident should have taken place half a year later, however, she is now sitting in front of him. We see he's only halfway out the door, and then he instantly turns around, saying he's gonna go back to sleep. She calls out to him and grabs onto his robe, telling him to wait, and he turns confused. She says it's nice to meet him, and from today onwards, but she gets cut off by her grandpa's hands coming in, knocking her hand off of Young Chun, saying that he already told her that she can't treat the young master like that. Young Chun is confused, and Hyogun tells Sol-Ah to apologize, and she does. He wonders what's going on, and then we see Hyogun bowing to him. He introduces himself as Moon, instead of Hyogun, and Young Chun is confused. He says that he will be serving him out of gratitude to the clan head, and he'll give it his all. Young Chun is just confused why he's using a fake name, and Sol-Ah introduces herself as well, saying that she'll be assisting her grandpa, and it's nice to meet him. Young Chun is confused about who they'll be serving, and sighs, saying that it must have been orders from his father himself. He tells them it's nice to meet them. He says he already feels like he's screwed from the start, and he asks them if they can call him by his name instead of calling him Young Master, and Hyogun says he understands, but calls him Young Master again. We see Gramps sweeping away, and Young Chun is surprised that he's actually using a broom. Gramps turns around, glancing at him, and gives him a smile. Young Chun wonders if this is really okay, and then turns over, saying that he's more worried about this. We see a tower of clothes, and some girls are trying to tell Sol-Ah that it's too dangerous to carry this many by herself, but she says she's okay. They tell her not to be like this and to let them help, but we see her clearly shaking. She tells them that it really is fine. Then somebody spawns in a rock, causing her to trip, and she screams, headbutting the floor, dropping all the clothes. The other girls look like they knew this was going to happen, and then they see her starting to cry. Young Chun wonders how she could be so bad at chores, as we see them comforting her. He says that she has a lot of talent in martial arts, wondering how it's possible that she's so clumsy. He sits up, saying that he has a headache, and we see Sol-Ah running over to him. He looks down to see her teary-eyed, and he tells her that she needs to finish whatever she's working on. She says that she was told to follow him wherever he goes. He asks who said that, and she says her grandpa did. He wonders if this means she is his direct servant, saying that they must have just dumped this role onto her because they didn't want to deal with him. He says that he's still the son of the Gu clan, wondering if it's okay for a personal servant to be decided so randomly. He says that he's okay with Sol-Ah, but her grandpa's pressure is too much. We see his clothes are all messed up, and Young Chun wonders if his father knows about Hyogun's identity, or wonders if he just maybe didn't care because too many servants quit. He says that he'll figure out today when he gets to his dad's room, so he can get to the bottom of what's going on. As he walks away, Sol-Ah tells him to wait. He asks where she thinks she's going, telling her to stay here and finish her other things first. She makes an expression as if she did something wrong, and says okay in a sad tone. We see her grandpa staring at her. Young Chun wonders what to say, but decides to just go, telling her that she needs to finish learning how to do her job. As he leaves, we see her still sad. He calls out to her, telling her that he'll bring her a treat, so she should do her best, and then closes the door. She instantly seems happy since he told her he would give her a treat. We see Gramps sighing, and Young Chun says that was too scary. And that he wasn't close to his dad in his previous life. He wonders what he should say to his father, and he's sure he'll say something first since he was the one who called to him. After he hears what his father has to say, he'll ask him about his servants. We see his father appear behind him, asking what he's waiting for. He screams, saying that scared the shit out of him, and his father tells him to just get inside. Young Chun's soul leaves his body after he realizes he said shit in front of his dad, and that he should have just died back there instead. His father asks if he saw the new servants, and Young Chun says yes, he greeted them this morning. His dad asks what he thinks of them. He says he's grateful that he appointed him a servant, but he's just curious about why. His father takes a sip of his tea, and tells him not to ask yet, and he'll let him know in the future. Young Chun says he understands, and then looks at him nervously, saying that his father must have sent them a servant despite knowing everything, wondering if he agreed to something with Hyogun. His father tells him not to worry about anything else, and focus on heading to the Unified Dragon Assembly tomorrow. Young Chun says okay, and then thinks about it, wondering what the hell that was. And then he realizes, and then he remembers. We see Young Chun telling Muyin to end his life. Then Muyin asks if he doesn't want to go to the assembly that bad, and Young Chun says yes. We learn that it is an important event where new members of the sword units are chosen. It is held biannually for the sake of the sword units who work in closing the gates of the demon realm, risking their own lives for the sake of the clan and the residents of Shanxi. It was a given that those of the Gu clan would be required to attend such an event. Young Chun says that he told him to end his life, and he's sure that if he died he'd be able to get out of it. Muyin shows him a scroll, saying that the clan head himself might end him. Young Chun clicks his tongue. Muyin reminds him that even Elder Li will be there, which surprises Young Chun. Muyin reminds him that Li said he would give him a beating if he ran away again. Young Chun starts to look worried, saying that he was wondering who it was, and among the elders, Elder Li was especially nasty. He always believed that he had to act with decorum as he was the only son of the family, which in turn made him responsible for the clan's honor and prestige. And he's someone he should be grateful to, but he's quite a brutal man. Young Chun says despite that he would come find and teach him whenever he had time, but all of the scolding and punishment made him want to avoid him. Even his father was never attentive to him. Young Chun says it's amazing how he managed to turn out to be such a loser despite his lessons. Muyin asks what he's talking about, and Young Chun says he's just yapping to himself, asking when they leave. Young Chun says it's as soon as everybody is ready. We hear all the other girls gassing up Sola, and Young Chun asks Hongwa if she's ready yet. She says that she's sorry, and she was trying to take care of Sola. Young Chun asks if she's caused trouble again. She tries to explain it, but they decide that he should just see it for himself. Young Chun is surprised by how different Sola looks compared to normal, and we see her blushing as well. She runs up to him and says that everybody told her that she was really pretty, and he turns away, asking so what, but admits that she is. She then tucks her hair behind her ear, asking if he agrees with him. Bro starts to steam out of his ears and asks everybody what they're waiting for, saying that it's time to go. She repeats it, and he ignores her, saying it's time to go. It jumps to them on a carriage, and she's sticking her head out like a dog, saying that it's cool, and that it's moving really quickly. Hui Bai asks if this is her first time riding one. Sola says yes, and she thought horses were just for eating. She didn't think they could run this fast. Hui Bai asks what she means by the eating part. But the conversation shifts to Young Chun asking where the assembly is going to be held. Muyin says it's going to be held at the Heavenly Exchange. Young Chun says it's the most famous shopping district in Shanxi, and it seems like Elder Li put a lot of effort into this one. Muyin tells him it'll take about 4 hours, saying he should sleep. Young Chun says that it'll be good, and he didn't sleep due to all of his training last night. Then he hears Sol Ah yelling about how horse meat smells funny, but it tastes great. He then shoves something into her mouth, telling her to shut up, and we see her eating it. She turns into a little piggy, and Young Chun sighs, saying it's finally quiet, and he'll get some sleep. He closes his eyes, but wakes up to her calling out to him, and he says there's no more cookies. She says she sees. Muyin asks Sol Ah if she told Young Chun they've arrived. Young Chun then raises up and looks out the carriage window to see them. In the middle of the street, he says that he guesses because it's a big festival, and there's a lot of people here. We hear a man saying that he must be tired from his long journey, and he introduces himself as Chun Ischil, the vice merchant head of the Heavenly Exchange, saying it's an honor to meet him. Young Chun also introduces himself, saying likewise. Ischil says that the first day here went by smoothly thanks to Elder Li and Miss Gu's efforts, and he's sure that Young Chun's tired, so he'll guide him to his room. Young Chun wonders if he's talking about Yonseo, saying that hopefully he doesn't come across her. He takes him to his room. Young Chun says that would be a big worry. And then we see right in front of him in the hallway is none other than Yonseo, and she clicks her tongue while making an angry face at him. He greets her. She tells him not to be so casual, and he'll piss her off. She says that she doesn't think he'll cause trouble here at the assembly, and that he needs to get rid of any funny ideas he has. There's nothing more dangerous than shaming the family name. Young Chun tells her he wants to be as quiet as a mouse, and she doesn't need to worry about him. She gets angry, saying she wasn't worried about him in the first place, and then she spots Sola beside him, and she instantly hides while looking afraid. She sighs, saying that she guesses old habits never die, asking if he's going to act like he usually does here too. And he asks what she's talking about. She says that she thought he had changed, but she guesses that's not the case, and she slams her door. Young Chun wonders what's wrong with her, and Ischil says they can keep going. Young Chun apologizes for what happened. Ischil laughs, saying not to be, and he knows brothers and sisters fight all the time, and that he'll take him to his room. Young Chun asks if they can go somewhere else first. We see them at the stadium where the assembly is going to be held, and it is quite large. Sol-ah is surprised, saying that she's never seen something like this before. Young Chun laughs, saying that while he did hear that the merchants value each other's financial power through how much money they dump in festivals, this is way too much. Today is celebrating the sword units and their incredible efforts, and duels will be held to pick new members tomorrow. And it's nice that those of the bloodline don't have to participate, and that he only has to come here to watch. As we see someone appear behind him, Young Chun says that surely nothing would happen if he just wants to lay low, but plot convenience won't allow that. We hear Elder Lee saying that he's surprised Young Chun didn't run this time. Then he turns to see him reaching towards his face. Young Chun realizes that he needs to block, so he puts his guard up, but instead, Lee gently taps his head and laughs, asking him what's wrong, saying that he always used to run whenever he saw him. Young Chun says that someone said they would fold his ass like a lawn chair if he didn't show up, and Lee asks who would say something so cruel. Young Chun says he would. Lee pats his head, asking if he's talking back now. Young Chun says that Lee has always had a strange fixation on him, probably due to the fact he's the only son in the Gu family. We see Sol-ah amazed, and she calls him a bear, saying that bears are delicious and so are horses. She goes to say bears are so tender, and she gets cut off as she sees Lee glaring at her. She starts to stutter, saying tender and tendies. His glare gets worse, and she starts to mumble rap, saying tendies. Young Chun says that shit was fire and warns Lee that he's scaring her. Then Lee asks if she is his concubine. He asks why he would ask that, saying she's clearly a servant. Lee clicks his tongue, saying that he doesn't need to be embarrassed, and that since tomorrow is the assembly, even though he's a spectator, he should go to bed now because he still needs to take part. We see Sol-ah has run far away, saying they need to get out of here before he eats them. Young Chun tells Lee good night, then Lee calls out to him, reminding him that if he leaves, he'll go after him. Sol-ah asks if Lee is going to eat him, and he jokingly says that he's going to strangle Sol-ah first, and she screams. Lee says it's just as he had thought, and that there is something special about Young Chun. The next day, it is finally time for the assembly, and we see a lot of people waiting in line. Young Chun says that he thought the assembly would start early in the morning, but looking at the line, it's going to have to wait until lunch. Muyin says it seems so and explains that it's due to the fact that there are so many clans inside of Shanxi, and they accept anybody who can prove their identities. Young Chun says that becoming a member of a sword unit does mean a lot after all, and Muyin agrees. Sol-ah says more importantly, and we see her shivering in fear, asking Young Chun if the bear grandpa is going to come back and take her head off. She asks if they can just tell him to hibernate. Young Chun jokes with her, saying that it's spring and that if she's so scared, she should have stayed in her rooms. She reminds him that her grandpa told her to stay with him. He says he can't tell her to disobey Hyogun and tells her that Muyin will protect them from the bear. Muyin then leans in, asking what he is talking about. Young Chun says they are talking about Lee. Muyin then asks how he's meant to lay a hand on Lee, saying that he must refer to him in a more respectful manner. He tells Sol-ah that this must be the end and that they should just feed her to him. She starts to get scared, but says that if today's the day, it'll be okay if people are happy. She starts to get sad about what he just said, and he tells her that it was just a joke. She then tells him that she guesses today will be the day she dies, and he reminds her that it was just a joke. She points at a food stall, saying that Grandpa said that those who die with a full stomach look prettier and that in particular, those who die after eating dumplings do. A little later, we hear Muyin saying that he treats her well, even though she's a servant. Young Chun asks if he didn't see that his servant was begging for a dumpling and reminds Muyin that she doesn't quite understand what a servant is. Muyin then tells him that he still bought the dumpling for her in the end. He tries to justify it, but realizes that he's right, and they sit there in awkward silence. Then he starts to think about it. Muyin says that he really is different from what's said in the rumors and that's why you shouldn't trust them after all. Young Chun tells him that he's reading too much into dumplings, then brings up the rumors, asking how long he's been his guard for. Muyin says it's only been 2 weeks. Young Chun says that he must have been assigned right before he was regressed, which is why he can say this, and he doesn't know which one of them is luckier. We hear somebody screaming out the word miss, and Young Chun says that shit scared him. We see them telling her that she can't wander around by herself. She says that they're worrying for no reason, and since the assembly is being held, there won't be much that could happen to her, especially when there are so many people of the Gu clan here. Young Chun says the voice is familiar, wondering if it's who he thinks it is, and the person says that's exactly why they are worried. Young Chun says that he's worried about the voice and the man who's been there for a long time, asking what they would do if they ran into the only son of the Gu family. Young Chun realizes they're talking about him, but copes saying there's no way, since there are many men in the Gu family after all. The woman asks if her servant really thinks that would happen, saying there are too many people here. Young Chun realizes that the plot definitely wants this to happen. We see her glance over down the street as her and her servant make eye contact with Young Chun, and they have an awkward WWE stare down. Young Chun looks nervous, and then the girl does as well. Muyin whispers something in Young Chun's ear and explains that the expressions of the lady over there and her guard look as if they've seen something horrendous, asking if they recognize him. Young Chun says there's no way he would forget her eyes, her hair which falls to her shoulders, and her black beady eyes. The ring on her hand is familiar, but he knows all about the significance of that ring, since it's not foreign to him. They are the Haibi Peng clan, also known as his former fiancée, as we see her all dolled up while he sits there rudely. Young Chun explains that there is a simple reason that there was an arranged marriage with the Peng clan, one of the 4 largest clans. The Gu clan is just as prestigious as the 4 clans, and they have a child of similar age. He was bound to be the heir if nothing happened, and the Peng clan probably thought an arranged marriage with the Gu clan was also fine. The issue lies in the trouble he caused. All the bad rumors about him, who ditches training to cause more trouble, did not sound so favorable to the Peng clan, and what really shattered the relationship were the things he said to that girl. We see her asking him why he is here, and he says that's his line, asking her what she is doing. She says she happened to have some business here, and that he doesn't own the entirety of Shanxi. He bluntly says if she says so, and she gets angry, asking why he is being so rude, asking if he's forgotten that she's still a year older than him. He says yes, and that he's sorry he forgot, asking if they're good now. He tells Sol-Ah to come back if she bought the dumplings, and we see her carrying a lot of them. He tells the girl whatever she's here for, he hopes she has a good stay, and that he's busy, so he'll see her later. We see her making a confused face. We hear the woman's thoughts as she says of course, it had to be right when she's busy enough dealing with her brother. She sees Sol-Ah beside him and wonders if she is a servant since she never met her. She wonders if he could have changed since he is such a cute servant around him. We see when they first met, he was very rude to her, saying that she was nothing but the daughter of a concubine. We see her pissed off, grabbing onto his collar, asking him to repeat what he just said. He says it's not like he is wrong, and she hits him across the face. She says she was prepared to endure it all, even if it was an arranged marriage, even with all the terrible rumors about him, just for the sake of her clan. Her attendant begs her to calm down, and we see her brush her away. She stomps right beside Young Chun's head, saying screw the marriage, and that she's just going to kill him here. And then we hear him get beat with a chair from the outside. She says that nothing's probably changed since then. We see Young Chun asking Sol-Ah if it's too heavy, and she says she's fine. But he says that he can tell she's struggling, so he takes half of the dumplings, saying that he'll help her. Muyin offers his help, but he tells him to focus on his guard duties, and they can bring some back for Manhwa as well. We see the Peng clan girl realizing that he's different since he's actually being helpful. Then changes her mind saying that it must be because he's in a good mood. But she starts to have a doubt in her mind, saying that just maybe there's a chance that he has. We then hear another person screaming to the right, and they all look over. Young Chun says that he's tired of getting jump scared today. They make sure that Young Chun didn't suffer a heart attack. We see the man at the desk for the assembly, saying that the problem won't be resolved by shouting, telling the man to calm down. But the man says that he doesn't have any time, asking if they're going to be responsible if he gets caught. The man at the desk asks him to explain what he means by caught. Then awkward silence ensues, as everybody sits there and wonders what the guy is talking about. The guy then says he never said that, asking if he is joking with him. Muyin says they should help, and Young Chun asks if they have too, saying that anybody can participate in the assembly. Obviously, only if they prove their identity. Muyin says he was talking about if they should allow him to keep continuing his scene. Young Chun says that squabbling over the assembly entry is no rare sight, and the martial artist of the Gu clan on standby will take care of it. We see one of them lean in close to the man, telling him to stop here. We see a familiar ring on the man's finger as he grabs onto the martial artist, and then stomps the floor as he starts judo, throwing him straight down into the ground. The man behind the desk asks him what he thinks he is doing. We see the man saying that he has proved his skill, asking if he can participate now. The man behind the desk says of course not after doing such a thing. Young Chun then watches in silence, and Muyin suggests they help now. We see Sola pogging out of her gourd over the fight. Young Chun turns, saying it's time to go, and Muyin asks if they are really just going to leave this. Young Chun says he doesn't want to get caught up in this, and it would be better to leave, as they will take care of it on their own. We see the man behind the desk yelling, saying that the man can't have everything that he wants, and that they have their own regulations. He cannot enter if he can't be identified. The man continues saying that his skill is evidence. Then Desk Bro says that is an even bigger problem. The man starts to get angry, raising his voice extremely loud, asking if they are disrespecting the young clan head of the Peng family right now. Young Chun turns his head, and so does the girl from earlier. Young Chun wonders why he is causing such a scene. Sol Ah is paying no attention to it. It flashbacks us to the Peng clan estate in winter. We see the sister asking her brother what he's doing here, and he says that he's been warming himself up by the fire because it's cold, and since he was sitting here, he decided to roast some sweet potatoes. She says that she won't ask why he's doing this in front of her room, but asks what he plans to do with that plaque in his hand. He says that the sweet potato was taking too long to cook, so he thought he'd use it to get the fire going. We see him get smacked in the head, and he asks why she did that. She says that he deserved it. She asks him if he knows what he's holding in his hand right now, and he just tells her it's firewood. She reminds him that it's the plaque of the Peng clan from their father, and it was a reward for graduating at the top of his class and for becoming the youngest successor in history. She says that surely he knows what he can do with that plaque, and he tells her that he can use it to make the fire stronger. She hits him again, telling him that he needs to act more like his successor. He looks a bit sad, saying right, and we see that she's worried about her brother, and tells him that she doesn't know what he's thinking sometimes. He has all the skills and talent despite being young and was even chosen to be the successor. He looks so dissatisfied. He laughs, saying not even close, and it's just that he wants to see more of the world, and she asks him why he doesn't just do that. We see her eating this sweet potato. He's surprised as he never thought about this, and then we see a note as he says that he's going to go out for a bit. We see her crush the paper out of anger, saying it seems like her brother thinks a bit means 4 months. Her servant says that the beggar sect has news for her, and she asks where it is. The servant tells her Shanxi, and she wonders why her brother would go so far. Back to the present. We see her brother asking them why he can't, saying that he showed them everything that he can, and that he really wants to attend the assembly. Deskman tells him that they're not in a position to let him in, and the brother continues, saying he doesn't have the time, asking if he has to show him the Dark Knight blade for him to believe him. Muyin asks if he heard that. Young Chun says that's the exclusive technique of the direct bloodline of the Peng clan. Young Chun decides that it's best for him to get out of here, and he goes to turn. But we see Lee walking in, putting his hand on his face, calling out to the brother, saying that since he brought up the dark blade, it means that he's not a fraud, and tells them that he definitely seems skilled enough, so to let him participate. They are all surprised. The brother introduces himself as Peng Wujin, the successor of the Peng clan, and says it's an honor to meet the pure flame fist of the Gu clan. Lee laughs, saying he hasn't heard that name in quite a while, and that he can participate, not to worry. The deskman tries to tell Lee that they can't confirm whether he's the successor or not. Lee says he's pretty sure he is. The man asks how, and Lee says he looks exactly like his father does, and look at how built he is, as that is the physique of the Peng clan. He says that the ring on his finger is also enough to prove his identity. We learn that the little sister's name is Ahui, and Young Chun recognizes the ring, saying she has the exact same one. Lee asks Wujin to tell them the real reason that he wants to participate in the competition when its purpose is to choose new members for their sword units. Wujin says that it's no fun in the Peng clan. Lee begins to laugh, saying that's not a bad reason at all, asking if he got permission from his family. Wujin laughs, saying that he didn't think they would allow it, so he just ran away from home. Lee starts to cry while laughing and speaks enchantment table, asking Young Chun if he heard that. He asks him how old he is, and we learn that Wujin is 23 this year. Lee says that the clan has raised quite a monster, and he glances over at Young Chun, saying he wishes their little idiot would learn from him. Muyin and Sola both start telling him that he caught a stray, and he tells them to shut up as he can hear. Young Chun says if he really is Woojin, then it's true that he's a monster. Not far from now he will receive the title Blade Emperor. Young Chun then says that the sister was here too and wonders why. Then we see Hui running in, calling out to her brother. He smiles, saying look at who it is, only to be greeted by a lethal kick to the face as we see him bounce along the entrance to the assembly hall. Pretty sure bro is dead. We see her getting really angry, saying that he claims the title of successor, yet runs away from home with just a note. He tries to plead with her to listen, and she asks him what he has to say. He sits there for a second because he didn't think he'd get this far, and he begs her to spare him. She starts committing a straight war crime in front of Young Chun and Lee. Young Chun suggests they stop her from catching a case, and Lee says he's enjoying it. Woojin starts to scream, asking Lee to help him. Young Chun asks if he's sure he's not going to step in, and Lee says maybe he should. He tells Hui that she's going to kill him. She glares, asking who dares intervene, only to see Lee standing there. She instantly pulls a 180, leaving behind Woojin's meatwad of a corpse, and apologizes for the late introduction. She's sorry he had to witness such a thing, and he says he enjoyed meeting somebody as funny as Woojin. Hui says she will not forget this incident, and she will be sure to compensate him for this, as they will be leaving now. Woojin says he doesn't plan to leave, and she asks if he didn't get beat up enough. We see him making a serious face, saying he's not joking right now. She realizes that he's for real and asks why. He tells her that the Peng clan is no fun. She asks him if the Gu clan is more enjoyable, and he says he's not sure but probably. She tells him that he needs to grow up and act like the successor. He says that's why he wants to have fun before he becomes the clan head. The only way to avoid becoming the clan head is to become crippled or to die, but he doesn't want to do either of those. He doesn't want to become the clan head in the first place, but other than her and him, everyone else is just beasts wearing their names. So he will definitely become the head as he can't have her do it. Which is why he accepted their position in the first place, even though he didn't want to do it. Young Chun asks Lee if he's really going to let Woojin attend, saying he doesn't think it's a good idea to get involved in this. Lee says that he would like to let him in, but considering the situation, he's not too sure. He then suggests a solution, saying that he will let him participate if he wins against him. Hui asks what kind of nonsense that is, and even Young Chun asks if he's lost his mind. Lee says just 10 moves to decide who wins, asking if Woojin thinks that's really all. Lee says that he's never lied and goes to explain the rules. We then hear Hui telling her assistant Yobi to get her brother. As they are talking, we see Woojin move at lightning fast speed, leaving nothing but a trail behind him. As we see him take Yobi's sword out from the sheath and start to get closer behind Lee, we see him coming in from the top rope with a sneak attack. Lee laughs, which catches Woojin off guard, and then tells him that he's impatient, as we see him about to get greeted with absolute death. It then takes a sudden jump to the middle of the night as we hear a man saying that everybody's been waiting long enough, and it's time for the long-awaited battle between the two stars who will lead the future of the Gu clan. We see his sister, Yeonseo, get introduced to the crowd, and she's very happy. Then it jumps to Young Chun who gets introduced, and he wonders why he's even here and why it has to be his sister. It jumps back to Woojin getting absolutely mollywopped by Lee. As the punch sends him scraping along the floor, knocking him hella far back. We see Lee exhale and then smile, saying that he won. Young Chun reminds him that he's only meant to dodge, and Lee asks when he said that. Saying that it was a sparring match they both agreed to, and that he controlled his strength enough that he'll wake up soon. Young Chun reminds him that he has nothing to do with this when the Peng clan comes knocking. Lee tells him to put his worries to rest, as he won't die alone. Jokingly saying that he'll rat him out. Then he calls out to Hui, saying that he had nothing to do with this, and it was all on Lee's own accord. She tells him that she doesn't mind, and it's a relief that Woojin is on the floor. And who knows what type of trouble he would have caused, which must be why he asked for a fight. Lee laughs, asking if she truly thinks that's the case, saying he just did that because he was bored. Young Chun wonders how he became an elder in the first place, saying that this clan is going downhill. Sol Ah then starts to tug on Young Chun's shirt. He thinks that she's afraid of Lee and says that they can leave. But she says that's not it. Then she starts imitating his punches, making some straight comic book sounds. Young Chun says that her expressions are so honest, and he wonders how she ended up saving the world. Lee laughs at her, saying that she has a better eye than Young Chun does and she'll give him a present. She wonders what it is, and then we see him pull out a honey cookie, and she starts going crazy, saying that she knew she liked him from the start. This is straight cap. Lee then asks Young Chun if he's disappointed that he only gave a present to his servant, saying that that must mean he has to give him a gift too. Young Chun tells him that he doesn't like sweets, and Lee says after the assembly, he is going to take part in an exhibition match. We see them both in the arena. Now we understand why they are here, and she asks him if he's not going to use his sword. He's confused, wondering if he used a sword when he was a child, and he explains that the Gu Flame Will arts can be utilized with a variety of weapons and is known to be especially effective with the sword or the fist. In the end, he realized that using his fist worked the best for him, and he quit using the sword, and he wonders if that'd make him look weird now. She then shrugs her shoulder, saying that she doesn't really care whether he uses a weapon or not. He says her personality is as nasty as always, and she starts to smile, saying that she can't explain how happy she is to have the opportunity. He asks what opportunity she's talking about. We see her pointing at him while blushing, saying that it's a legitimate chance to beat up her little brother. Furthermore, it's in front of so many people as well. He then looks a bit annoyed, wondering why Lee did this in the first place. It flashbacks to him asking Lee why he has to participate in this, especially against his sister. Lee tells him to calm down, saying that he doesn't want people to go home thinking that their clan is boring. Young Chun sighs, calling him a crazy geezer, saying he can see it all over his face that he'd just think it'd be funny if he lost, but he'll just surrender midway. Lee says if he does think about giving up, he knows what'll happen to him as he points to Woojin on the floor. Young Chun asks if he really wants to watch him get beat up that bad, especially in front of so many people. Lee glares down at him, asking him if he's really planning on losing. Young Chun explains in his mind it's not really a bad thing. He doesn't want to waste his once-in-a-lifetime chance to restart. He doesn't even want to waste the energy on a fight that never happened in his previous life. He goes to say something else but snaps out of his thoughts as she calls out to him, and we see her beginning to release her aura as she's frustrated that he's going to become the clan head just because he's a man, and that is the main reason she despises him. The announcer says to begin, and we see her dashing off the floor in a zigzag pattern going straight for Young Chun. He sidesteps the attack, and we see her coming in for a second. As she swings at his head, he ducks below it. She then pivots onto her foot, instantly going in for a second follow-up swing, which he matrixes. She wonders how a mere 2-star is able to block her attacks, as we see her making an expression of confusion. This is actually Young Chun meta reading her thoughts. He's only dodging by moving half a beat earlier than she is, but even just this is making him short of breath, and it shows just how untrained he truly is. He wonders how he's going to get out of this, suggesting that he just lets himself get hit, saying that he's not even sure if his body would be okay after taking her hits. We hear Yonseo saying that he only knows how to dodge. Then she instantly closes in the gap, and then she grabs him by the robe. She goes to swing at him again, but we see him dodge the attack. He then starts to slip out of his robe as she strikes down exactly where he was standing. He tells her that if she swings with such obvious intent, it would only make it easier to dodge, asking if she can stop. He wonders just why she's so angry and how much murderous intent she has in the first place. She says that she forced herself to accept that she'd never be the clan head as a woman, despite working herself to death. However, to think that he, her brother, would live his life like trash and still get to be the clan head just because he's a man is very disheartening, and she asks if he would even be able to understand. As we see her sword starting to heat up, he realizes that her coating her sword with her aura is very dangerous, and is far beyond the level of a 3-star. She then starts to twirl her sword as she comes in for even more attacks, and he steps to the side to avoid the first cluster and then backward to avoid the follow-up. Then we see her coming in with a left, yelling at him that he's always just running away, asking if he even knows how to do anything. This time he dodges forward, and she uses her hand to keep her balance while kicking him, saying that he's talentless and he refuses to put in effort. Now if he's planning to live such a worthless life, he should just disappear, and he can see that she truly is frustrated. He starts to see it from her perspective. We see her on the verge of tears as she's coming in for yet another swing on his throat. He starts to feel genuinely bad for her, but then she tells him to disappear like his mother did. We see her making a surprised face as we see his hand on her wrist, and that her attack has been stopped. He glares at her, asking her to repeat what she just said. We get a flashback to when Yonseo was a child, and she says that her sister Hui Bai was the coolest person she knew. At only 15, she received the title of Sword Phoenix, and at the age of 20, she graduated at the top of her class at the Divine Dragon Academy and was appointed as the 5th sword unit leader of their clan. Everyone acknowledged her, but she still is not able to become the head of the clan. Instead, the one who will be is none other than Young Chun. But she didn't hate him. Although they were half-siblings, Young Chun's mother was very kind to her, and she liked her too, so she was fine with his existence. This was all before that happened. One day she suddenly disappeared, and father sent out the order not to look for her, so nobody did. That was when it started. Young Chun spoke and acted rudely towards everybody, and rumors spread that he touched his maids. Still, there was no change to him being the next clan head because the head has always been a man. She felt frustrated that she was being ignored. Even after how hard she worked, along with her sister Hui Bai, she resented Young Chun due to the privilege he had, rather she truly hated him. The flashback ends, and he's asking her to repeat what she said. She starts to feel scared and realizes that this shit is dangerous. So she jumps backward to create distance, but he instantly surpasses her, getting to her back. She turns only to see his fist flying in. Then it jumps back to just a little earlier as we see Hui surprised at how talented Yeonseo is, even though they're the same age, and she doesn't feel like going around telling anyone she's from the Peng clan anymore. Yobi tells her she's doing fine, and Young Chun asks Yobi if she can hear what they are saying down there. Since she cannot, Yobi says she can't either. Then Woojin steps up, saying that Lee has set up his energy so nobody can hear them. She tells him not to go around saying he's from the clan either with how his face looks. He asks if she's embarrassed of him. She says no shit and to just stay here until the swelling goes down. Then Woojin asks if Hui Bai's siblings are fighting. They say yes, and how it's incredible she's already a 3-star. Hui says that her swordsmanship is so smooth, and the same goes for the way she wields her internal energy. Woojin says he was mostly talking about the younger boy. Hui and Yobi say that they are both Hui Bai's siblings. He says that he sees and begins to smile, saying it seems like the Gu clan doesn't have just the sword phoenix. Hui looks at him a bit sad as she recalls that he said he wanted to have fun before he became the clan head, and that he won't be able to have the same hopeful eyes he has right now afterwards. Her brother says they're done. Back to Yeonseo. She says that she needs to dodge his punch, and we see her narrowly do it. She starts to swing her sword, saying that she won't miss out on this chance. As she grits her teeth, going straight for his neck, Young Chun says he understands her, and it's okay for her to hate him, as the way he lived his life is shameful. And what she said was annoying, but he'll understand it. So hopefully, she too can understand why he is doing this. As we see him pushing his hand backwards while accumulating his inner energy into it. Then we see fire from Yeonseo's eyes as Young Chun gives her the equal rights, equal left treatment, hitting her with an absolutely foul slap to the face. We see her eyes go pure white, and she drops to the floor. The announcer is confused but says that Young Chun has won. Then it jumps to later, as we see Young Chun sighing, saying that winning wasn't in his plans, and he didn't think that his internal energy would be enough to knock her out. He hopes that nothing happens from this, and he recalls how angry she was in the middle of their fight. He sits there worried about what is to come. We hear Muyan calling out to him, asking if he's okay. He says he's fine, asking how the situation is inside. Muyan says that this might make him feel bad, but since they all thought he'd just get beaten up, everybody is talking about him. He says it makes sense, as he is rumored to be a scoundrel, yet he defeated an upcoming prospect. Muyan says the atmosphere settled down after Lee spoke up, and he is concluding the assembly. Young Chun says since he's busy doing that, they should just leave so they don't bump into him. Sol-Ah calls out to him, telling him that his hand is bleeding, and Young Chun says he knows, and it's proof that he can't handle his energy yet. He says it's no big deal, as we see Sol-Ah starting to bandage him. Or well, she tries to, as she sits there and messes it up over and over. She begins to cry, saying that she can't do it properly, and she's sorry. Young Chun is surprised, and then we see Woojin getting in close, saying he doesn't like seeing him get hurt either. Young Chun tells him to learn to read the room and swears at him. Woojin goes to ask him what he just said, but Young Chun instantly covers it up by introducing himself. Woojin does as well, and we see Hui hiding behind Yobi, turning into a tomato. Woojin laughs, saying it must be awkward for her since they were engaged and they should take this opportunity to reconcile. Young Chun then jumps to the point, asking Woojin why he's here, and Woojin says it's a good opportunity for them to make connections and become friends, telling him to call him brother from now on. Young Chun tells him that getting close to somebody like him won't benefit him at all. Woojin says that he thought the Gu family only had Hui Bai, and he didn't expect such a hidden talent. Young Chun wonders why he's talking to him so informally and says that based on how he's speaking about his sister, he must know her. Woojin says of course, and they're super close, but he doesn't know what she thinks of him. Young Chun says that just means they aren't close then. Woojin then continues this awkward conversation, but then tells him that since it's late, he'll get going. Young Chun then sees that Hui hasn't left yet, asking her what she needs to say. She says that the day they broke off their engagement, she was mean for hitting him with a chair, and she goes to say sorry, but he cuts her off by saying it first. He says he went too far, and he was very immature, and he definitely did something worthy of getting hit, so she doesn't need to apologize. She lets out a big smile while telling him okay and tells him not to lose what her brother gave him. He wonders what she's talking about, and then looks to see the Peng family plaque in his robe. Ahui says goodbye as she leaves him standing there. He watches, saying there are still many things left that he needs to fix in this life, but it's gonna take baby steps. We see the carriage heading back home, and Sol-ah is sleeping on Manhwa, while Young Chun looks out the window, saying that no matter how much he thinks about it, he doesn't remember sparring Yeonseo in his previous life, much less winning against her. Along with the fact that Sol-ah is now his servant, there are so many things changing this life from the one that he knew, and he wonders if that small act of kindness really changed this much of the future. He lets out a sigh, saying after they get back, he'll need to move faster than he expected. He then senses something and tells Muyin to check the demon sensing charm. Muyin reaches into his robe and pulls it out, saying that there's nothing changing and he doesn't know what he sensed, but it'll automatically glow if there's a demon realm gate nearby, so not to worry. He goes to tell him he can relax, but it begins to glow a bright yellow, and Muyin yells, telling everybody to stop, saying that a gate to the realm has opened up and that the safety of the young master is the most important thing. We see Young Chun stretching, and Muyin asks him what he's doing, saying that it's dangerous here. Young Chun tells him that he'll listen to his lectures later and tells him to look ahead as we see a green rift. Young Chun mentions that it's green too, but we haven't learned the significance of this yet. We see a pack of wolves rushing out, and Young Chun kindly explains that green means it's the lowest level of danger. He begins to channel energy into his hands, saying that it may be tricky, but it's fully manageable. He punches through the back of a wolf's skull, ripping out some kind of green stone while explaining that the universal weakness of monsters are the demonic stones. They are similar to a heart for humans, and upon extraction, the monster instantly dies. We see a wolf coming in for some back shots, but Young Chun dodges it, hitting it in the stomach and ripping out another stone, saying that this is the easiest way to eliminate them, but his energy is starting to dissipate already. If he wants to keep it up, it's going to be rather difficult, but he has no other choice as this is his only option to survive this mess. We hear Muyin call out to him as we see him instantly jump in front of the wolves to protect Young Chun. We then see him do some crazy devil may cry type attack, and Young Chun is taken aback by this, wondering if Muyin has always been this strong. We see that he has instantly annihilated the wolves. He turns, asking Young Chun if he's okay, and Young Chun says yes, and that he saved him. A bit later, we see them already wiping them all out, and Muyin explains that there weren't that many to begin with, and thankfully they were the lowest class. He then asks Young Chun what he was doing, saying that if he were to get injured, he'd be in a bad spot. Young Chun says it's all good, and Muyin says it's not that simple. Young Chun then looks down to see his hand glowing purple and starts to scream in agony as Muyin lectures him. Everyone instantly starts to run over to him, asking what's wrong, and Young Chun starts to scream internally, wondering why he's getting this shitty feeling, saying that this is the heavenly demon's art that absorbs demonic energy. It is called the Demon Well Absorption Arts. We see a ton of sakura petals as they slowly start to shift to a purple hue, which shifts to flames. We see a man panting, asking somebody why they are doing this, saying that they did nothing to him, as we see a whole courtyard filled with corpses behind the man. We see it's Young Chun, and he's asking the man, who we learn is the blossom splitting blade, if these are his last words. Then we see a head roll up on the floor beside him, and he looks down at it and starts to shake and scream as the head belongs to his sect leader. Then we see a giant shadow loom over them as we hear somebody saying that the blossom wasn't actually terrible, and we see them riding on a dragon. They jump off of the dragon and lightly touch the ground. They approach Young Chun, saying that it was nowhere near enough to satisfy them. That being said, they were able to get some shallow amount of joy from it. They tell Young Chun to raise his head. Flashback ends, and we see the demonic energy slowly starting to get entangled with his own energy. Young Chun is confused by this, wondering if the flame will art is purifying the demonic energy, and then says rather it's consuming it, and that this never happened in his previous life. We see Muyin and Sol-ah calling out to him as he wakes up, asking him if he's okay. He says yes, and that it was nothing much, and he guessed he was more hurt from sparring than he thought. Muyin tells him that he'll find a doctor to check up on him. Young Chun says he should hide it for now, as nothing good will come out of people knowing that he absorbed the energy. We see Sol-ah starting to cry, and she squeezes his cheeks, asking him if he's okay, saying that it looks super painful. He asks if it really looks that way, and that it wasn't that bad. She says that his face looks really bad. He gets annoyed, and then we see Hongwa pulling her away, saying that she should be helping him, not annoying him. Muyin says that if he still isn't feeling well, they can visit an apothecary, but Yongchun tells him again that it's not that bad, so don't worry. Muyin says if that's what he wants. Yongchun looks down at his hands, saying he no longer feels the energy, and he wonders if it really was purified. Seeing how the color of the demonic stone faded, the energy must have been absorbed. He then breaks it, saying that he needs to get moving. It jumps to the three of them at a food stall as they are selling honey cookies, and Sola starts pogging out about them, but Yongchun walks away from him, and Sola asks why he would bring her if he isn't gonna buy her cookies. We get a flashback of her hugging onto his leg as he said that he needs to go to the market, and she begged that he take her. She says that her grandpa told her to stay with him, and Muyin asked why he even came to the market in the first place, saying that he hasn't recovered from the gate incident last night, and if there isn't a reason for him to be doing it right now, then it would be best for them to return. He asks him once more if there's something he's looking for specifically, saying that he will help him find it. Yongchun says that he understands that he wants to help, but now is not the time. While he's talking to him, he spots something which takes his attention. He starts looking down an alley, saying that seems to be the way, and Muyin asks what he's talking about, and what would be in the alley. Yongchun tells Sola to go home and Muyin to follow him. Sola asks why, and Yongchun says that she should just go back and let the other servants know that he'll be home in the afternoon. She starts to say that her grandpa told him to stay here, and he tells her that he'll give her 10 cookies if she goes home right now. She says that he needs to add dumplings too, and he says of course while sticking his hand out. She sticks hers out, and they shake on that shit. Yongchun says that it's time to get going, and Muyin asks where they were going in the first place. Yongchun tells him that he'll find out. As they walk down the alley, he looks around saying it's somewhere around here. Muyin warns him that this area is dangerous, but he says he knows, and then spots something saying that he found it as we see a grotty-ass building. Yongchun says that he was worried that it wouldn't be here, and Muyin starts asking him again why they're even here. Yongchun asks if he feels like there's something off about it, and Muyin says yes, rather than the appearance, he's getting a bad feeling from the building itself. Yongchun says that he has some keen senses, and then he opens the door. We hear some people talking, and they ask who the brat is. They say that he probably just took a wrong turn, but then they spot Muyin and his sword. They start to wonder if they should just kill him here. Muyin looks apprehensive and reaches for his blade, then a man begins to walk forward with a candle, calling out to them saying that this isn't a peaceful area to be poking into, asking Yongchun why he brought him all the way here. He says that he's here as a customer. The man laughs, saying it seems like the kid has an attitude, and he thinks he can fix it by cutting off his tongue. Muyin shouts at them, but Yongchun tells him to back down for a bit. Yongchun says surely they all recognize who he is from the moment he stepped foot in here, asking if they're aware that the Gu clan will wipe the area clean. He then warns them that there is no reason they would do that as it would be a loss for them, and now before they make things worse, they should just bring the regional manager here, and that he has a black belt in Karen. The man with the candle says regional manager in a mocking tone, saying that he doesn't know where he learned this shit from, but he's lacking a ton of something called respect. As all of the men stand up and start surrounding them, Yongchun says that they don't seem to be the polite type either. The candle man laughs and tells his men to get them, and they all start charging towards Yongchun. Muyin instantly draws his blade, telling them not to even think of laying a finger on him, as we see him instantly putting the sword to somebody's throat as he's made light work of the group that surrounded them. The man starts to sweat nervously, as well as everyone else who just got bodied, as they sit there in anticipation. The man with the candle realizes it's a bad situation but says that he is still the heir of the Gu clan after all, and he also half expected some crazy bodyguard to be attached to him. But he can't bring a kid like this to the regional manager either. He starts to wonder what to do, and then somebody opens the door behind him saying that the regional manager has something to say. The candle man starts to think that he's screwed if that is what the manager said. As they start to talk, Yongchun watches, saying that they are clearly plotting something, and he has no choice. He tells Muyin to go ahead and clean this up, but before he finishes his sentence, the candle man tells him that he can sheath his sword as the regional manager wants to meet him. Yongchun clicks his tongue, saying that they should have said that earlier, and tells Muyin to sheath his blade. Yongchun then says it's time to go. Muyin runs up to him, telling him to wait, saying he doesn't understand what's going on. Yongchun says that it's not a big deal, and he was planning to go to the beggar sect, but there were a few problems. The beggar sect were able to secure a spot among the 10 largest sects due to the information they possessed alone. However, Since they are still part of the Orthodox sect, they do not take jobs that would cause trouble. The request he needs is a little problematic, so he has to go somewhere else. If the beggar sect is the best of the Orthodox sects in regards to obtaining information, this is the place for the unorthodox sect, the house sect, and that is why he has come here. As they go deeper into the building, we see them get to the bottom. Someone welcomes them, introducing themselves as the Shanxi branch leader, Do Wonchu. They say that they weren't expecting someone like him to visit and they apologize for coming out aggressively. Yang Chun says it's fine, asking if they'll accept his commission. Wonchu says that he's curious why he didn't go to the beggar sect, but rather to them, part of the unorthodox sect. Yang Chun says that he came because this is a commission that the beggar sect can't do, and it's something that only the house sect can handle, asking why they keep needing to verify it. Wonchu apologizes, saying they didn't mean to make him feel uncomfortable, but due to his last name, they have no choice but to be careful, hoping he understands. He says he does, but cuts to the chase, asking if they'll accept the commission or not. Wonchu says that they can't refuse commissions as long as he can pay the price. Yang Chun says that he's looking for somebody, a boy who's just a bit older than 10. Wonchu starts to inspect the page and apologizes, saying that they don't think they'll actually be able to accept this commission because they had a previous commission looking for the person protecting the boy rather than the child himself. Yang Chun asks if they really can afford to not do it, as the commission fee is from the house sect leader himself. Everyone in the room instantly draws their blades in unison, swinging at Yang Chun's face as he sits in his chair, but another blade gets drawn as we see Muyan effortlessly block their attacks. Yang Chun says he thought they weren't going to be so aggressive. Wonchu, in a serious tone, asks him how he knows this. Yang Chun says he's not here to speak riddles and that it's important that they both have the information the other needs. Wonchu asks if he can verify his info. Yang Chun says that they can confirm it themselves, and that carefully considering things like this is something you do when you're in a desperate situation. If they don't need it, then forget it. He'll just go to the beggar sect instead and maybe slip some things up about the house sect leader to them. Wonchu sighs, saying that they understand. Yang Chun asks how long it'll take. Wonchu says it'll take about 3 months. Yang Chun says that's fine and goes to leave, saying that when they find them, they can exchange their information. He looks back, seeing how stressed Wonchu is, and tells them that it is the Sharp Mountain Range. Wonchu instantly looks surprised, and Yang Chun says this is their advance as he leaves. They stay sitting there. The candle person asks Wonchu if they trust his information. Wonchu says that judging by the fact he knows top secret information, they had no choice but to believe him. But Wonchu wonders what he is thinking, saying that seeing how skilled the guard is who came with him, he must have known they would come out aggressively, and this information can't be something only the young master alone knows. The Gu clan head must be involved in this. Wonchu says damn it, and grabs his throat and starts to peel off his skin. The candle person asks if it's okay for him to take it off, and we see that it's actually a woman. She says that it felt stuffy and there's nobody watching anyway. We learn that the house sect doesn't actually respect, trust, or follow the leader, which is why he was hiding in order to avoid those who were after him. We see her eyes looking desperate, and then she closes them, calling out to her father, who must be the leader of the sect. As Yang Chun leaves and the doors close behind him, he lets out a sigh saying he is relieved. If it came to it, he was going to tell them to come at him, but it's a relief that the little info he knew became of use. What he knows is that the house sect leader was captured by the Dark Knight Palace for more than 5 years, and as a result, the house sect and the Dark Knight Palace go into battle. The Muram Alliance makes a surprise attack, causing the Dark Knight Palace to collapse and the battle to come to an end. But during the battle, the house sect leader dies, resulting in the extinction of the sect. However, he doesn't even know the exact location of the palace. He was lucky, and the fact that the information worked is only because he actually got to meet the branch leader in person. Yang Chun says that this is annoying, but he needs to do this to find the boy who reached the position of top management for the demonic cult at a young age, the tactician known as the brain of the demonic cult, the Heavenly Fang Jugahyuk. He's thinking of finding and killing him. Even Sola struggled because of his tactics, and if he doesn't deal with him in advance, he'll help in the advancement of the cult. Muyan then says that while he does not know who he's looking for, if it'll take 3 months, he'll only hear about it in the summer, and it seems like the people of the house sect aren't as informed as the rumors say they are. Yang Chun says yes, and he will only get to hear about it in the summer. He then thinks about something, wondering why he only just thought of this now, saying that it's around this time that the Jinchuan Yun clan's secret chamber, operated by the First Merchant Association, was discovered. There are countless riches stacked within there, and while all that is nice, they aren't as important as these priceless spiritual pills. A character who rose to a high stage through the power of these pills would become a demonic human later on, which was a huge source of strength for the heavenly demon. Juga Hyuk is also an issue, but so is the chamber. Even if he wants to prevent that, the chamber is still in Sichuan, which is very far away. He closes his eyes, saying there's no helping it, and smiles, saying that it's time to give up. There's no way he could get to Sichuan, and how would he even find a place that's hidden so well? Then it jumps to Sol Ah asking somebody what they're talking about. We hear a boy saying he asked what she thinks of coming to him, and that he'll make her happier. We see Lee surprised, and then he laughs, calling out to Hyogun, saying that he missed a leaf there. He says he came all the way here to Young Chun's house because he was causing trouble. But it's funny to see that this old geezer was the root of it all, and he begins to laugh again. Hyogun laughs as well, and Lee tells him to stop laughing and get to work. Hyogun then breaks the broom, asking Lee what he thinks he's doing. Lee says that he's just assisting him in his disguise as a servant of the Gu clan. Hyogun tells him to help him sweep the floor, and Lee says that he broke the last broom. Then we see Lee picking the pieces up, and Hyogun says he doubted he came this far just to see the boy. Or maybe he did. Lee then asks him if he sensed it too. The kid who refused to train his footwork and ran away 6 months ago has bested his sister. In addition, the flow of his flame will art has stabilized. His talent is too immense to let him be. Hyogun says he doesn't know if it's truly talent, and he's never seen anyone improve so quickly in his life. There must be something about that child, and that the first elder will not stay put if he finds out, and he might already be on the move. Lee says he's definitely that type of man, asking where the boy is now. Hyogun says he doubts he'll cause too much trouble with so many eyes on him. Back to Sol Ah. We get a 4K Ultra HD realistic drawing of her saying that everybody needs to listen to what she's going to say. If they want to know what happened to her, she'll tell them. Last night she had a dream, but it was not good. She hurt tons of people in the dream. Her grandpa knows how much she hates holding the sword, but he made her hurt so many people in the dream. She wanted to stop, but still entered a house, hurting even more. Inside the house, we see a man saying that if he had a little more time, and when Sola goes to call out to him, the man stabs her in the stomach. She then closes her eyes, saying that she's sorry as she struggles to say Young Chun's name. She then woke up due to the nightmare, and she wanted to see Young Chun due to the fact she was scared. Hongwa told her to go to the courtyard, however, she must have arrived way earlier than Young Chun because someone else was in there. The man then started talking about how he'd make her happy, but she's happy with Young Chun. Just then, Young Chun appeared and ended up making a scary face again. And that is where we are currently. Young Chun then tells the man that she is a servant, asking who he is. All he sees is the man blushing, and he says he apologized if he has wronged him, calling him the young master. The man bows his head saying yes, and introduces himself as Gu Jalayop, and he would like to request a spar with him. Young Chun instantly says he refuses, and Jalayop is confused. Young Chun repeats it, saying he's not doing it. Jalayop asks if he's running away then, and Young Chun says yes. This continues with Jalayop asking if he's scared, and Young Chun again saying yes. Jalayop then starts to try to hide his anger, and starts calling him weak. Young Chun laughs, saying he does have a keen eye, and he is indeed very weak. Young Chun says he caused a mess when he fought his sister, and that he doesn't want to make the same mistake by fighting some random guy. He turns, saying that he'll head off then, only to run into Lee, asking why he doesn't accept it, saying that he came from very far. Young Chun asks what he's doing here, and then we see Jalayop bowing to him. Lee says it's been a while. Young Chun asks if he knows him, and Lee asks if he doesn't remember that he is the first elder's grandson. Young Chun says the more he looks at it, the more he can see the resemblance. Lee then asks Jalayop if he's here to fight Young Chun, and he says yes, but he's avoiding him. Young Chun says he's only here to hit on girls. Lee asks him if it is an order from the first elder to do this. Young Chun says that makes sense, and it's all just politics in the end. It is a well-known fact that the first elder is an ambitious man, waiting until Young Chun inherits the clan and then trying to make him a puppet. However, after seeing him, who he thought was useless, defeat Yonseo, and mess up his plans, he must have been trying to stop him by sending his grandson here. Young Chun then says again that he has no intention of fighting him. Lee tells him to just do one match, and Young Chun says it's obvious he would lose, so why would he waste his time? Lee smiles, saying it's just a hunch that he won't actually lose. Young Chun says just at a glance he can tell that he's stronger than Yonseo, and he doesn't want to fight, he doesn't want to get into a losing battle or mix up in politics. As he goes to leave, Jalayop grabs onto Sola's hand, telling them all to wait. He tells Sol Ah that he feels that Young Chun is undeserving of her, and if he comes to her, him instead. But before he can finish his sentence, Young Chun calls out to him, telling him to remove his hand and follow him, and he'll accept this stupid match of his right now. We see Young Chun squaring up in the ring, saying that he's starting to regret this. Lee pats his head, telling him not to be like this. And this kind of fight, with other martial artists, will be sure to help him improve. Young Chun says, yeah, and since it's turned out like this, he needs to do a favor whether he wins or loses. Lee says he has zero reason to do that, and the loss will only be his after all, saying that he is the future clan head. Young Chun says he thinks he's mistaken, as he has no intentions of becoming the clan head. Lee is surprised and asks him what he's talking about, saying who else could become the head other than him. Young Chun says he already gave up all hopes on becoming one in his past life, but it seems like people think that he wants to become the clan head. He says he's going to roll on the ground and surrender if he won't do him the favor. Lee says he's so far from adorable, but he has one condition as well, and he'll only do him the favor if he wins. Jaliop asks him if he's all warmed up, and then Young Chun says somewhat. Jaliop then apologizes, and Young Chun asks what he's talking about. Jaliop laughs, saying he did too much in their duel last year, and that he never would have thought he would have been bedridden for a month. Young Chun says it was so long ago he doesn't even remember it. Jaliop says he thought back then that he was too weak, and he did hear that he won against Yonseo, but he thinks it's just a coincidence. But his grandfather does not think so, but he does not like to harass the weak. But there's something he dislikes more than that, and that is if someone weak were to become the clan head, as we see him releasing his aura, attacking the ground. Jaliop then calls out to Lee, saying that he would also like something if he were to win this duel. Lee says it's only fair, asking what he wants. Jaliop says he wants that maid, talking about Sol Ah. Young Chun starts to laugh, and gets angry, while cracking his knuckles. Lee laughs, saying okay, telling them to start the duel. Young Chun also begins to release his aura, and he asks Jaliop what he's waiting for. Jaliop says it's only polite that the weaker opponent is to attack first. Young Chun asks if he's talking about him, asking if that's why he's so afraid. Jaliop says that he's certain that he's better than him, whether it's in inner energy, speed, or strength. But there's an overwhelming aura coming from Young Chun that he doesn't know what to think of. He's so full of flaws, and he's sure he's trying his hardest to deal with the energy he's exuding right now. He starts to inhale even more copium, saying that is the only thing that makes sense, and that he will run out of energy faster since he is less. As Young Chun's aura dissipates, he says he's sure of it now. Young Chun gets into a stance, asking him if he can attack first. Jaliop says yes, telling him to come, but right before he can finish his sentence, we see Young Chun, already in the air behind him, coming in with a kick. Jaliop turns, only to narrowly dodge Young Chun's kick. Jaliop laughs, saying it was a good move, but he's too slow. While he's yapping, Young Chun channels aura into his hand and smacks him in the face. This attack catches Jaliop by surprise. Then, Young Chun takes the sky above him, coming down with another kick, this time connecting directly in the face, causing him to crash into the floor, breaking some of the arena. We see blood pouring out of his mouth, and Young Chun tells him to get up while he's letting him. That way he won't cry that he was ambushed after the fight, and then asks him if he's already done. Jaliop says he's sorry for having underestimated him, and he was lacking. Young Chun says okay, and that means they're done here. Jaliop releases his energy once more, this time focusing onto his blade, saying that he is yet to attack. Young Chun says he guesses this won't be as fast as he wanted, and he doesn't have much time. Usually, he would utilize his energy by exuding it like he's doing, but in order to fight someone stronger, he needs to embody the energy within himself to reinforce his body. However, he can't handle the energy like that yet, and if he pushes too much, he might suffer energy deviation. He has 7 minutes to finish this fight. He says the sword technique that Jaliop uses starts and ends with the utilization of friction force between the sword and sheath. He then sees his hand slightly twitch and realizes it's time to move. As we see Jaliop close the gap, dashing past him within an instant, releasing a devastating attack. But he doesn't stop there, as Young Chun avoided it, so he turns back around, instantly going for 3 more follow-up attacks, which Young Chun manages to dodge by doing some crazy acrobatics. Young Chun says that his movements and techniques are very fluid into one another, and he can tell that he's well trained. But that also means that if he cuts him off, he won't be able to do anything. We see him put his hand on his chest, and he begins to circulate his aura. Jaliop doesn't give him the chance, coming up from behind. But it's too late. Yang-chun clenches his fist, and an explosion comes out from behind him. The split moment when he exudes all of his aura energy is enough to end this fight, as we see Jaliop wondering how he's able to put this much energy out. Then within the next second, we see him starting to cough up as his face is strained, after he received a heavy blow to the stomach, which took him off of his feet. We see Yang-chun absolutely send Jaliop flying into a wall, shattering it. He starts to ask him if he knows what he hates the most. He says he doesn't care whether they insult him or act like shit, or try to take his clan head position. He doesn't care about any of that, but he tried to take what he should not have even thought of taking, and that is what he absolutely despises. He doesn't like the fact that he thought he was even deserving of her. He wants to break his arm so he can never try something like that again. He starts to reach out to his arm, saying that should definitely be enough. But Lee puts his hand on his shoulder, telling him that he did good work, and they can stop here. You can see the remnants from their fight. Lee tells him that he was too harsh, and Yang-chun says he should have been prepared for that much. He got up on his own and went home after, so surely that means he's fine. Lee asks if he's not worried about the first elder finding out about this. Yang-chun says he doesn't care about becoming the clan head anyway. Lee tells him not to say that, asking who else but him could become the head. As he and Lee talk, Sol-ah wonders if she'll get more food if she were to become the head, and they say yes. Then she says she's going to become the main character. Lee says that this isn't something they should be joking about, and Yang-chun goes to say that it doesn't really matter, and that she's probably going to get really strong. But then he wonders when she's going to even start learning to wield the sword. She was called the direct disciple of the Sword Supreme, she must have been taught by him, but she's learning chores all day, and he's never even seen her near a sword. He doesn't think she's always been this smooth-brained, either. He starts to remember what it was like when he met Sol-ah this winter but says that he can't remember it, and it should not have been something that was so easily forgotten. We see Sol-ah asking him if he's okay. She says that she knows he hurt his head in the fight, and then he should make her the clan head before he goes to the heavens. Yang-chun smacks her on the back of the head. Then Lee stands up, saying that they can talk about it later, and he's sure they're tired, so rest well. Yang-chun asks him where he thinks he's going, saying that he needs to keep his end of the promise while laughing. Lee asks him what he wants, asking if it's money or food. Yang-chun says he doesn't want something as trivial as that and he's sure he's powerful enough to help him with something really difficult. Lee asks what he wants, and Yang-chun points out to his side, saying that he wants him to send him to Sichuan. Lee is confused, and Yang-chun says he can do that much at least since he's an elder. Lee asks him why he doesn't just go on his own. Yang-chun is confused, and Lee says he was worried about the kind of favor he was gonna ask, and that he guesses he was worried for no reason. Yang-chun says that he wanted to go to Sichuan, not the market or town, and he should know that the only son of the Gu clan shouldn't be going around wherever he wants. Then he must have an important reason to go somewhere that far. Lee tells him that he can just attend the Tang's weapons exhibition. Yang-chun is surprised that he didn't think about it first. We learn that the exhibition is an event held every year where the Tang clan invites other households to show weapons made by their artisans. Lee says there's no need to attend but he gets to use it as an excuse to go. Yang-chun tells him that it was just a joke and he actually wanted money instead. Lee says he understands and asks if he really wants to go that badly, saying that he didn't even realize and he guesses getting old is scary. Yang-chun says if he can't give him money then he would at least like a spiritual pill. Lee says that he'll send him to Sichuan as early as he can, to show him the power of an elder. Yang-chun tries to take it back, saying that he can give him something else, but Lee shouts saying he'll send him right now. Yang-chun says that there's no way that's possible, and he needs to report it first and get ready. Then we see him outside as everybody's preparing for their trip, then him in the carriage, and then him leaving completely confused as Lee waves by telling him to have fun. With him and Hyogun waiting at the gate, Hyogun turns, saying it's time to get back to work. Lee asks if he has to as well, and Hyogun says of course, asking if he was trying to get an old man like himself to do it all. Lee grunts and then starts sweeping, saying that since there's only the two of them, he wants to talk for a bit and tell him about his worries. Hyogun asks if he sent him off in a hurry just to tell him this stuff. Lee says a few days ago the clan head asked him about the immortal physician, and it seemed like he was asking because someone asked him too. Lee asks Hyogun why he needs the immortal physician as he was the one who asked. Hyogun doesn't say anything, and Lee says if he's not going to tell him then he'll change the topic. He says that his granddaughter doesn't seem human, asking what she is. Hyogun tells him that he's crossing the line, as we see him releasing his aura, telling him to watch his mouth. Lee says if she were human, he would sense a presence similar to his, the vividness of his presence only differs from person to person. When he first met her at the Dragon Assembly, he was surprised that she had no presence at all. He thinks that if the immortal physician could come down to fix her with divine skills, he better give up that dream, as he knows better than him that it's no disease. He goes to say more, as we see a bright light in front of him, and Hyogun summons even more swords, telling him that that is enough, and that that child was definitely human. Lee realizes that it's something very sensitive to him and turns his head, saying that if he says so, then that's all he wanted, and that's all that really matters. He doesn't plan to push into it. Hyogun then says it doesn't matter if she's not human in the first place, as he just needs to help make up for what she lacks in humanity. If need be, he will give his life for it, and he wants her to grow up safe and sound. A few hours later, Hyogun will realize that Sol-Ah has disappeared. It jumps to the starry night sky as Muyin says now they have to prepare the food. Manhwa tells them that they still have a few days until they get to Sichuan, and they'll have to ration it. Muyin then asks where Yongchun went, and she says that he's been training while they prepare stuff. Muyin says that he must be bored, and Manhwa laughs, saying they should have brought Sol-Ah. As we see Yongchun practicing his martial arts in the woods, he starts from a kick, going into a punch, and then a shoulder charge, which creates a shockwave in the air, but all that is enough to gas him out. As we see him panting, he says it's almost been 10 days since they left, and despite the training, he's not progressing much at all. The biggest problem he faced during the fight against Juliop was the amount of inner energy he has, and that inner energy is the basis of all martial arts, so he needs to hurry and raise it. He starts to recall him absorbing the demonic energy, and he starts to think about it. He explains that if you end up taking demonic energy into the body, it'll corrupt the user, but for some reason, it was purified due to the flame will art, and after that, he hasn't felt any demonic energy. He feels like he could raise his energy without side effects, but it's still the heavenly demon's martial art, and it would be best for him not to use it as he barely managed to escape, so he doesn't want to get back on the demonic path again. He hears a scream which startles him, and he wonders what's going on, so he heads over asking Muyin. Muyin says that there's something in the carriage as we see Manhwa on the ground, scared. Yongchun opens it, and we see Sol-Ah crawling out from a hiding spot like the Grudge, yelling for Yongchun, and she laughs, saying that she ended up coming anyway. There are flashbacks to a couple of days ago when she asked Hyogun if she could go, but he told her no since she still has to get better at housework. She asked him why he let her go last time. He asked if she's talking about the Dragon Assembly, saying that because there were people who could have prevented her from making mistakes, but there isn't anybody to do that for her in Sichuan. He asks if she understands to help remove the clothes. We see her putting his clothes into the carriage, saying that Yongchun will be back for in at least a month. It's true that she's bad at housework, and she knows that Yongchun doesn't like useless people, so she has no choice. She then hears somebody saying wait, and she gets scared, turning around, and there's nobody there. She looks around and says she definitely heard a voice, and then we see someone push her in, and she screams. She looks around, asking who pushed her, saying that they shouldn't play pranks and that she's scared. We see some floating hands, and as she says that she needs to get out, they hit her with this rag smell funny jutsu, and she starts to fall asleep right inside where their rations are. The final thing she heard was someone saying they were leaving this up to her. She explains everything to them, telling them that's exactly what happened. Nobody gives it even a slight reaction, and she's surprised. She thinks they must not have heard her, so she says it again, and they say they heard her the first time, saying that she was possessed by a ghost and that she should go back. At least that's what she should have done. We see them riding through the forest with her and looking out the window, and she starts looking at all of the food she's eaten, like owls and squirrels. Yongchun originally would have had a bodyguard take her home, but she's already come too far, and they don't have enough food to give them, so now they're stuck traveling together. Then she shows Yongchun a worm, saying she would like to trade it for a cookie. He eats the cookie out of the window, and she screams, and he says that he definitely should have sent her back. Yongchun then senses some energy, and goes to tell Muyin. He says that he's aware as we see the talisman glowing. Yongchun says that he knew it was too peaceful to be true, and it seems like there are 4. Then one of the animals dies, and he's surprised that there's only 3, and he starts counting them down until there's just a single one left, and it's leaping directly at him. Yongchun readies his fist with aura, but we hear a voice telling him to stand back as we see somebody appear behind the monster. She draws her blade, and just like lightning, she cuts the monster in half before it can even react. She quickly sheathes her sword and then says that she wasn't able to take care of them properly because she was alone. Yongchun and Sol-Ah wonder who she's talking to, and then they wave at her. As she glances over, Yongchun is curious and then instantly starts to recognize her. We get a flashback to a puddle of blood as there is a white-haired woman standing in it, and she says it seems like they're heading to Sichuan. We see that there's a lot of plot behind this one, and then she looks over, and she asks them if they can go with her, and she introduces herself as Namgung Bia. Young Chun wonders what this crazy woman is doing here. It jumps back once more to the chaos of a battlefield and a bird picking at the remains of a corpse. We see Bia standing there, amidst it all, and Young Chun approaching from behind. He asks if she killed everyone. She doesn't answer him, asking what the cult leader said. He says that they told him to bring her here, and that she'd rampage like a psychopath. She says that last part was definitely added on by him, and she doesn't want to catch a stray. He says he's surprised that she could understand that much, and tells her that it's time to go. She starts walking, and he says that's the wrong direction, telling her to go left. She instantly turns to her right, and he asks her if she's all there upstairs, then sighs, saying not to do anything weird and to follow him. This is making him tired. As they start walking, Bia says she has something she wants to ask him, and that is if the Sword Supreme is strong. He warns her just in case that the Sword Supreme is someone the cult leader will deal with. She then wonders what her swordsmanship is like, and if it's stronger than hers or the cult leader's. Then she starts walking in another direction, and he sighs. We see him channeling his aura into his hand, calling her a crazy bitch while aiming it towards her. We see her not even looking at it, but her hand on her sword as the attack gets cut in half and it flies past her. She starts releasing her aura, asking him if he's trying to pick a fight. He sighs again, telling her that she's going the wrong direction. She realizes and he tells her that if she understands what he's saying, just shut up and follow him. As they keep walking, she starts to open her mouth again, and he says if she mentions the three Supremes one more time, he'll rip her apart. She points out to an alleyway, saying it looks like a shortcut, and he starts to get annoyed and readies himself to launch another attack at her, but she instantly darts off in that direction, and he calls her mentally ill, saying he's so done with dealing with her. He says he arrived at the destination within a day, yet it took her 4 days to get there. Back to the present, we see her asking them again if she can go with them, saying that she's assuming they're going to Sichuan, asking if it's rude if she asks to accompany them. He says they're not going that direction, and it definitely is rude to ask, and he really doesn't want to get involved with her. He says that even with all of that, there's still more he wants to say, so he tells her that they can't even take her word that she's part of the Namgung clan. She asks if that's really the case, and then we see her starting to shut her eyes as she starts to channel her aura. A blue lightning beam comes down and starts surrounding her. Muyin recognizes it as the ruler's sword form, and that it's not safe if she uses it here. She then opens her eyes as the sparks start to fly more, and then there is a giant explosion. We see Muyin's blade over her throat, and she says that this is just a demonstration as she is not yet adept, asking if this is sufficient enough as evidence. Young Chun sighs, saying she really is from the Namgung clan, and he definitely thinks that they can't accompany somebody with martial arts so scary. Then it jumps to later in the night as she is staring at a frog cooking on a fire, and Sola says it seems like she's going to sleep over there. Young Chun tells her that he knows. While he was relieved she didn't say anything when he rejected her, he didn't think that she'd follow their carriage, and he wonders why she's doing it even when he said they aren't going to Sichuan and that ignoring her is the best thing to do. He goes to tell Sola not to do anything unnecessary like talking to her, but sees that she's already gone as she is teaching her how to peel the frog's skin to eat it. He then walks over and grabs her by the collar, asking her what she thinks she's doing. She said that she saw Bia going to eat the frog, so she wanted to help her. Young Chun says he told her not to mess around, and then we see Bia glaring at him. He sighs, saying he understands that she is part of the Namgung clan, and she goes to ask him why he's so against her accompanying them. He asks her why she's traveling alone if she's the daughter of a prestigious clan. We see her looking away, embarrassed, saying that she left with others but she got lost on the way. Young Chun says he knew it. She had zero sense of direction in his previous life. He tells her that they aren't even going to Sichuan, asking why she is following them, and she says that she had a hunch they were going there, but it seems like they really aren't going. Sola is confused and glares at her, and then looks back up at Young Chun, who is turning his head left and right. Then she does a double take back to Bia and then back to Young Chun, and yells, asking if they really aren't going to Sichuan. Young Chun says he really wishes they sent her back. Young Chun tells Bia that they can't stop her from heading in the same direction, but he's not going to do anything for her. She introduces herself again, and he says that he's aware, and he says that since she's introduced herself, maybe he could do the same. He says he'd rather not but thinks about something and introduces himself as Gu Jalayop, and in his mind, he is apologizing to Jalayop. 2 days after the event that made him feel guilty towards Juliop, we see him looking out the window as Sola got off the carriage and was sticking close to Bia while talking, which naturally slowed down their pace a lot. He tells Sola to get back on, and she asks if he will let Bia on, and he says no. Sola says in that case she doesn't want to. Bia then asks if she can get on, and Youngchun realizes he's dealing with Dumb and Dumber, and asks Muyin how much longer. He says they'd arrive in a day if they were going at their original pace, but it's a bit slower now. Youngchun asks by how much, and Muyin says it'd probably take around 3 days and says he doesn't understand why he's so wary of her, asking why he can't ride with Bia. Youngchun sighs, asking if he doesn't have a choice, saying that they can stop by the nearby village and reconsider their options. They head into the city and Youngchun confirms that they'll be in Sichuan in a day. Muyin says yes, and it's nice that they don't have to camp out in the wilderness tonight. We see Bia carrying Sola, who says they should sleep together, and Bia asks if that's really okay. Youngchun says that he'll allow it, and tells Sola to get down, asking Bia why she's carrying a maid in the first place. Bia says that she said her legs hurt. Youngchun says that she could get on the carriage if her legs are that bad, and Sola says that Bia isn't allowed on. He tells them that they're here now, so that she can stop being rude and get off of her. We see Sola looking at something else, and she said there are people in the same clothes as her walking over here. A boy screams out, calling out to his sister and runs over. He asks Bia where she was, saying that they looked hard for her. She says that she got lost, and her brother tells her that's why they said they should tie ropes to each other. Bia says that would be embarrassing, while Sola thinks about the image. Her brother says that's why she went and disappeared not even a day in, and he was worried sick about her. Then asks who Sola is. She introduces herself and then points at Youngchun, saying this is her master. He tells her to get down. Youngchun says if it's Bia's younger brother, he must be the future Lightning Blade, one of the 5 great swordsmen of Murim. The current Lightning Dragon, Namgung Chunjun, introduces himself. Youngchun goes to introduce himself but again says he's Juliop, saying it's nice to meet him. Chunjun laughs, saying he's being too nice, and then glares at him, asking him what he's doing with his sister. Youngchun says that they coincidentally came across each other on their way to Sichuan, so they got here together. Bia says that she thought he wasn't coming here, but she just followed him. Sola starts to look annoyed. Chunjun says it seems like his sister intruded into his party, and if it's okay with them, they can stay in one of the rooms they booked as they got quite a few. Youngchun tells him it's okay, and they just did what was natural. He just doesn't want to be involved with Bia anymore, and he's sure they'll be able to find another room. Muyin then chimes in, saying that's not going to be the case as there are no rooms available. Youngchun tells him that it's time to camp outside then. Muyin says that they are tired from camping outdoors, asking if they can just sleep inside. Youngchun then agrees to the offer. He explains that the first thing that Bia did as a martial artist was kill everybody in her own clan. She killed her brother, her father, and every single disciple in the clan. After this, she achieved the title Demonic Blade Empress and began her rise to fame. He wonders how much she hated them to have done something so cruel to them all, and he didn't see any problems other than her relationship with the Lightning Dragon. What he's most curious about is the secret technique, ruler sword form. He feels like she's probably stronger than Chunjun considering that technique, but at this point in time, she has no title nor fame. He says that her brother seems normal, and he wonders if there's something that he can't see. As he exits the room, he sees Chunjun asking him if he slept well and bows, thanking him for the nice room. Chunjun intentionally bumps into his shoulder, telling him that he should know his place in an angry tone. Youngchun asks him what he just said, and Chunjun says he tried to be nice for once, but it seems like he doesn't know his place, and he's telling him that he doesn't deserve to talk to his sister. He doesn't know how he managed to seduce his innocent sister, but if that happens again, he will cut him in half along with the bitch that was on her back. We see Bia come out of the room, and he instantly changes his personality, laughing, saying that he's glad he slept well and he's glad to help someone of the Gu clan. Then he pushes his sister, telling her it's time to go have breakfast while laughing. Youngchun looks tired, saying that everybody in her family must be insane. As he exits, Muyin asks him if he slept well and goes to tell him about the Namgung clan, but Youngchun says not to mention them, asking when they are going to leave. Muyin says they've already finished preparations, and they'll be able to leave right after eating breakfast. Youngchun says he's so relieved that Muyin is a normal dude, and he wants to get away from everybody in the Namgung family as quickly as possible. As soon as he enters, he sees Bia saying she's sorry for not saying hi earlier, and Sola obviously munching away, saying that the dumplings here are gas, And Young Chun asks them if they really will have to eat together. He sits down, telling Bia that it's okay for Sola to eat with him, but she shouldn't be here, and that she should go be with her family. Bia says she just sat wherever was closest, and Young Chun says that her brother is glaring at him like he wants him dead. She turns, saying no way, and we see him instantly change his personality again, and Young Chun wonders if he's okay. He doesn't know what Bia is trying to do, but this is the last time he wants to see her until the Tang weapons exhibition. So he takes a bite and says that he'll get going. Bia says he's not done eating though, and he tells her he's full. He goes to leave, telling them to enjoy their meals. She starts to smell something foul and covers her mouth, trying not to gag as we see her brother calling out to her. He asks her why she's sitting all the way over here rather than with them. She turns and looks at him and can tell that his true nature is much scarier than he leads on, so she tells him that it was just more convenient. He tells her to sit with him next time and sighs. She says okay and watches Young Chun leave. And she starts to get up, and he tells her that she's not done eating, asking where she's going. She says that she's going to go rest in the carriage. He starts to glare, and he sees her joining Young Chun's group, and he starts cracking his fingers, saying he hates it when people interfere in their relationship. Bro is from Alabama. Back in the carriage, Young Chun asks Bia why she's still following them. She says that she's not following him, rather she's accompanying him. He sighs, saying they can put it that way, asking why she got on this one rather than her brothers. She goes to explain, and then Sola jumps in, saying that she brought her here and she's super excited about it. Young Chun glares at Muyin, telling him to get them both out of here, and he laughs, saying they'll end up getting off by themselves at some point, as they have just arrived in Sichuan. We learn more about the Tang clan, which is an extremely prestigious Orthodox clan that has had their roots in the Sichuan regions for centuries. The Namgung family's focus is on sharpness. The Peng clan is focused on vigor. The Mo Yang clan is focused on precision. The Tang clan may seem lacking compared to the rest, but they are known as the best handlers of poison and steel by far. The Tang weapons exhibition is the result of that confidence. He only has 3 days to find the treasury, as that is when the exhibition will end. All he knows is that it is here in Sichuan and the general area it is in. We see Sola running around the room like Sonic, and Young Chun looks around at the wide area, wondering how he's meant to find it when there's so much space. He says if he can't find it, he might have to resort to leaking it to the beggar sect, so he has to hurry. He hears Sola screaming, which surprises him, and he wonders what she's doing here. She says this is her first time being so high up, and the wind here is much different than down low. She smiles warmly at Young Chun, telling him to look as the fireflies are dancing under the moonlight. She then looks behind him, saying that Bia also told her about the pretty lake over there, and she drags him over, saying they can go get a closer look together. They both head down to it, and we see there are a lot of flowers around. He says it really is just as she said, and asks how large a clan has to be for there to be a forest inside of it. Sola starts to laugh and calls out to him, as she is holding up 2 flowers, asking him where she thinks he's hiding. He tells her to cut it out, and she says she just wanted to cheer him up, and he says that it's not something she can help with, so to quit worrying. She says that maybe if he tells her, she might be able to help. He then asks her where someone who is trying to hide valuables would put them. She asks why they even needed to hide it, calling them mean. We then hear somebody calling out to them, asking them who they are, as she says outsiders are not allowed here. We see 2 familiar moles under her eye, and Young Chun says he forgot about her, the one who single-handedly stopped the swarm of several thousand demonic humans attacking Sichuan. She asks him again who he is, and we are introduced to the Poison Queen, Tang Soyol, a woman he killed in his past life. It flashbacks us to him walking into a cave, as we see her kneeling on the ground. This was the girl who was blind in the beginning, and he asks her if she's all done, and she looks up asking if it's him. He tells her that her efforts were futile, saying her kin had already deserted the area, asking why she would charge in here by herself. She says she knew nothing would change, and then he asks her why she did it. She asks him what made him come here, and he says that's a stupid question, as he grabs her by the throat, saying he came here to end her life. She says she understands, she's very sorry. He asks her why she's apologizing to a demonic human, asking if she's out of her mind. She says yes, and she believes her sanity must be finally broken, and that she's able to see more now that she lost her eyes, and that she should have let go earlier. He asks if she's done rambling, and if she has anything else to say. She says that she knows it's selfish of her, but if there is time left in the world, she goes to say something else, but we hear her neck snap before she can finish her sentence. Young Chun finishes the job and drops her corpse there, walking away from it. He looks down at his hand, seeing it soaked in her blood, and starts to feel a bunch of different emotions, but says it was gross. The flashback ends, and she asks why he's not answering her. He says she's still not the poison queen at this moment. She goes to say if he doesn't answer, she'll call the guards, and we hear Bia call out to her, and then begin to whisper. She asks why she's only telling her this now. Bia says it's because she never asked. Soyeol then bows her head, saying she's sorry for raising her voice at a guest of the family. Young-chun says that he apologizes for not being able to answer, and he was shocked, and tells her that his name is Jalayop. Then she glares at him, asking what business he is here. She tells him that only those of the clan are allowed here, and he asks if that means that Bia is part of the clan. She starts to panic with an answer, and he realizes that she's just telling him to leave because he wasn't invited in. He says he was going anyway, and he puts his hands together, saying he'll be on his way. Young-chun and Sol-ah then start to leave. Soyeol says that she didn't expect somebody at the Gu clan, like Jalayop, to be so rude. Sol-ah asks her why she glared at him so harshly. Soyeol says that she didn't like how he never apologized, even after she pointed out his mistake. She asks if men really think looks are everything, and she hates guys who act all rude just because they are a little handsome. We see her starting to blush. She starts to try to correct herself, trying to explain what she meant by handsome, but of course, she's talking to one of the slowest people in the world. She thinks about it for a hot minute, and then wonders why she's calling him handsome. Soyeol says that guys who are nice, even if they're a little ugly, are the best. We see Sol-ah and Young-chun walking away as she's holding a flower. The next morning, outside of Young-chun's room, we see him saying that the exhibition is tomorrow, so he should do some training in his free time. As soon as he opens his door, he is greeted by both Bia and her brother and asks them what they are doing here. Bia says only the words food, and he asks what she means. Chunjun laughs, saying that the Tang clan invited them for a meal, and Bia suggested inviting him, so that's why they came to ask. Young-chun says he sees, and is grateful for the offer, but he is quite shy, and he would feel too uncomfortable. He glares at them, saying he hopes they get his message, and they leave. Obviously, Bia doesn't. Chunjun tells him not to be like that, as he tightens the grip on his arm, telling him to come with them. Young-chun starts to get annoyed, saying that he said he didn't want to go, and he's wondering if he's really threatening him to bring him there. And then decides he doesn't want to play around with this shit, and says oh, as he releases his aura. Chunjun is surprised, and instantly lets go of his arm. Young-chun realizes that might have been a mistake, saying that he'll have to go with them, and he laughs, saying that he can't refuse such a thoughtful invitation. He then puts his hands around Chunjun's neck, and whispers to him, saying that he should keep smiling, as his lovely sister is watching. We see that Chunjun is a bit taken aback, and is slightly embarrassed, and thanks him for accepting the invitation. Young-chun says it was not something he could refuse in the first place. He then sees a plate of probably some of the spiciest food known to man, and he says that if they make every dish spicy, what are they expecting him to actually eat? We then are introduced to the son of the clan head, Tang Ja-oyuk, saying that it's nothing fancy but he hopes they enjoy it. Young-chun doesn't know how he's meant to enjoy any of this, saying that maybe the dumplings will be edible, since it's less red than the rest. He looks over at Soyeol glaring at him, and we see her panting, and he wonders what's wrong with her. He says she always gave him a weird look in his previous life, whenever he ran into her too, and he can't believe that he has to endure that same look again. He goes to bite into the dumplings and instantly realizes that this shit is way too hot, and then he has to spit it out somewhere. We see Soyeol panting more. Young-chun says that that was way too spicy, and Bia hands him water. He thanks her, and then starts to drink it, as we see her pick something up with her chopsticks, telling him to try this as it's not too spicy. He's a little caught off guard by this, and asks her why she's being so casual. She apologizes. Across the table, we see Chunjun shaking as he breaks his chopsticks out of pure anger. Ja-oyuk apologizes, saying that the chopsticks must have been defective, and he says it's his bad, as he tends to use them a little forcefully. Then Soyeol takes a seat right beside Young-chun, and doesn't say a word to him. He sits there staring at her, asking her if she has something to say. She says yes, and then no, immediately. He says that it seems like she really wanted to. She starts to think about it, and asks him if there's anything he likes, but before she can finish, Chunjun asks if the training grounds are here. Ja-oyuk says yes, and it's their clan's exclusive training area, asking if he didn't show him last time. He says they maintain it, but honestly nobody uses it, as all of them have their own training areas. Chunjun looks out the balcony, asking if he can visit it. Jaoyak says yes, and it seems like everybody's done eating, so they can head down together. Youngchun wonders what he is thinking. As they all get down there, Chunjun says that it's quite spacious, and Youngchun agrees. Jaoyak says that their ancestors thought the larger the better, but he doesn't really get it. Chunjun laughs, saying he's sure there was a deeper meaning behind it. Jaoyak then says that Soyul used to use it often, trying to beat him up, but now that she's grown up, she doesn't want to fight him anymore. She gets embarrassed, and starts twiddling her fingers, looking up at Youngchun. He says he's grateful he doesn't have a sister like that. Then Chunjun points a wooden sword at Youngchun, saying that now that they've eaten, they should digest a bit, and asks Youngchun how a spar with him would sound. Youngchun says he knew it. His face is filled with the intent that he wants to beat him up, asking if he thinks he'll go along with his plan. Youngchun laughs, asking how a third-rate like himself can fight the lightning dragon. We hear Soyul yelling that's unacceptable, saying that they have such a massive difference in age and skill, asking what he'll do if he hurts his face. Chunjun says it's alright, as neither of them will use their internal energy, and it'll be more like a mentoring match, asking Youngchun if that sounds okay. Youngchun starts to smile, asking if he really thinks he can mentor him without using energy, and asks him if he can handle it. Chunjun asks what he means, and Youngchun repeats himself, asking if he thinks that his skill is good enough for that. Jaoyak says that might have been phrased rudely, as he still is senior, but Chunjun gives him a gesture saying that's okay, and laughs, as he releases some aura, saying that he can't wait to see how great he is. They continue their WWE stare down, and Chunjun goes to say he'll let Youngchun go first, but he cuts him off, saying that he'll let him have the first attack. Chunjun bites his lip, getting angry, saying that he won't turn that down. He charges forward, declaring that he'll be the first one to strike. He does a downward swing, which Youngchun easily sidesteps. He remains light on his feet, as he can tell what Chunjun is going to do next when he comes in with a follow-up strike, which Youngchun evades because he was ready for it. He says both of those attacks were just for show, and the real attack is going to start now. Chunjun changes the direction of the blade mid-air, and we see Soyul watching their fight intently. We start to get some backstory about her, learning that she was always a little different, even as a child. While most kids her age chased after dogs and cats, she loved hanging out with beasts like wolves and tigers. The slanted ferocious eyes and sharp fangs showed that they were apex predators and gave off an unapproachable aura. That power, which differentiated them from other animals, was what entranced her the most. Thanks to this preference, she had trouble finding love. We see her on top of the wolf, asking if there's a guy like it, and she hopes she meets someone at the weapon exhibit this time around. She says that she doesn't know why everybody else likes Chunjun's feminine face, and she wonders if there's anybody who looks like her dog. And so, she's finally met the love of her life, which she never expected. Bro just got called a dog. That is what made her act so crazy. She was wondering why her heart was beating so fast, saying it wasn't good. She told herself that she was just confused and that it was a lapse of judgment caused by the cold morning air. And he'll just be like the other ugly clan heirs when she wakes up tomorrow. But the next morning, at breakfast, she couldn't help but stare at him. She said that his eyes were cool, and that it's cool that he can't even eat hot stuff, and even him drinking water is cute. Before she realized it, she was right beside him, and that's why she was panting. She wonders when she even got here. And she says this must be what love feels like, and maybe she can take another step. When she went to ask him something, we see a sword completely derail her train of thought as it lands in front of her. Bia looks down at it nervously, and Soyul sits there, starting to get flushed again as we see Youngchun had palm strike Chunjun's sword, leaving him completely confused. Youngchun sits there laughing at him. Soyul then drops to her knees and continues to pant. Does anybody else find this weird? Chunjun wonders why his sword broke, saying he made sure he could react to his first two strikes to give him false confidence, but he went all out afterward. Chunjun starts to taunt him, saying it seems like geniuses have a habit of daydreaming while fighting, and if this was a real battle, he would have died 3 times. He asks him if he's aware of that while coming in for a punch from above. Chunjun realizes he's in trouble and instantly backpedals, creating distance. He asks why he's attacking an opponent without a sword, calling him dirty, pot calling the kettle black. Youngchun then tells him to look behind him to grab a sword that's intact, saying this was supposed to be a mentoring match, and that he was going to teach him a lesson, and he laughs. Chunjun starts to get even more pissed, and Youngchun asks if he's the one meant to be teaching him, saying education isn't his strong suit, and he lets out an annoying laugh. The air instantly gets tense, and Youngchun is surprised as Chunjun begins to release his aura. We see a spark of lightning in the air as he instantly dashes forward with full intent to kill Young Chun. Young Chun says he brought the shit upon himself and rears back his fist for a heavy punch. But before his fist can connect, Chun Jun counters with some Devil May Cry type attack, as we see that shit bouncing everywhere, only for it to completely shatter. He says there's no way, and that this is bullshit, as there's no way someone like him is stronger than he is, and that he can't believe it. Young Chun says he's let him off enough times and then kicks his leg forward, hitting Chun Jun right between the legs. This is something that is heard around the world. R.I.P., Bia is shocked, and so is Ja Oyak, while Soyeol covers her mouth as Chun Jun's face begins to grow very pale. The sound they all heard was none other than an egg cracking. I think everybody, even though this guy is weird, can empathize as he gets on the ground screaming in pain. Young Chun crouches down closely, laughing, asking him if it burst while smirking. Chun Jun starts to call him a bastard, and Young Chun says seeing as that he's still talking, he guesses it actually didn't burst. Chun Jun calls him a coward and says that he doesn't deserve to call himself a martial artist. And once all the clans know he did this, he'll walk with his head lowered everywhere. Young Chun then asks him how many people he's killed, which surprises Chun Jun, and he says it must have been at least 10 people. Chun Jun asks what he's talking about, and Young Chun grabs onto the back of his shirt, holding his arm up. Chun Jun makes a very pained face. Ja Oyak then calls out to him, saying, "Jalayop, this is enough," and pleads to stop the fight here. Young Chun says not only did he infuse his energy into his sword, but surely he also felt the bloodlust he had, asking if he thought he made a mistake because he was immature, and that this asshole is older than he is. Ja Oyak reminds him that Chun Jun belongs to the Namgung clan, and that he already knows very well what could happen if he continues what he's doing. Young Chun says that he's already holding himself back a lot because he's from the Namgung clan, and if their positions were reversed, what does he think would have happened? Ja Oyak then asks him what he intends to do, only for us to hear Chun Jun's arm completely snap, and Ja Oyak sighs. As Chun Jun sits there holding onto it, making a very pained expression, all he hears is Chun Jun screaming in agony as Young Chun thinks about it. He starts to get a bad feeling, wondering if he's going to get into trouble, saying he wonders what Elder Lee will say if he told him he bodied one of the Namgung clan members. He'd probably let it go if he gives him a rough explanation. He might even actually praise him, and he has to eyewitness since he was the one that was wrong to begin with. Bia then approaches him from behind, tugging on his arm, and he turns, wondering what it is. She makes a genuinely curious expression, asking him to tell her his name. He says that he told her his name is Jalayop, and she says that's a lie, and he wonders how she knew. He asks why she wants to know his name, asking if it's to get revenge for her brother. Seeing that her expression hasn't changed, even though he just beat the hell out of her brother, he wonders what's the deal, and then she says, "Tell me," as she gets right up into his face, asking him for his real name. He's taken aback, asking why she's talking to him like they're friends. As he did this to stop himself from getting caught up in the mood, she quickly apologizes and looks to the side. He asks if he tells her his name if she'll stop following him, and she nods, saying yes. He thinks about it and decides to do it, telling her that his name is Young Chun. She starts to blush while saying it. He makes his way out, saying he doesn't think he can attend the Tang weapon exhibition since he beat up that Namgung guy. This is better, as he earned himself an extra day to look for the secret chamber. Though he is a little tired after the fight, so he plans to rest. He then decides if he goes back home, Muyin is just going to chew him out, saying that he won't let him go alone and he'll follow him around to make sure that he doesn't get into more trouble. So he thinks about what to do instead. We see Sol-Ah still up in the room, and Muyin enters, calling out to her. He sees Sol-Ah asking what she's doing here, and asks if she has seen Young Chun. She says that she hasn't seen him, and he wonders where he went. Sol-Ah asks what's wrong, and Muyin says after going for a meal with the clan this morning, he is yet to return. Of course, she gets sidetracked by food. Muyin then adds that he also beat up a Namgung clan member, asking how to report this. Sol-Ah looks to the side, and her eyes instantly shift to a serious expression as she starts to scan the entire city looking for him. We get some backstory of the Yun clan of Jinshan. They are a martial arts clan that was the best merchant clan in the Central Plains several centuries ago. Even though the clan seemed like nothing could bring it down, it disappeared after a bloody fight. No one knows the reason behind this sudden disappearance, but based on the records left behind, all of the secrets of the Yun clan are hidden under the white maple tree. Young Chun says, "White maple tree, my ass. I don't even see any normal maple trees around." He takes a seat in the forest, saying it's not even autumn. and he wonders where he'll find it, saying by now it's probably a dead tree. It's also supposed to be under a white one, and maybe someone spread the rumor around as a prank. As he sits there, he says he didn't even eat anything all day, as his stomach rumbles, and now he's climbing a mountain in the middle of the night. Sol-ah then appears, asking if he wants one of those honey cookies, and he says that her being a greedy pig sure helps in times like this, and she says that she's not a pig. He asks if that sack that she has is full of food, and she says yes, and he says it's a relief because he was thinking he would go back because he was feeling hungry. She then asks if she was of help, and he says yes. Then he realizes that she's here and wonders how the hell she got here, and she just laughs. After they set up the whole feast, he asks her if she's really saying that people started to look for him after finding out that he went missing, and she came all the way here just to find him. He asks how she knew he was here, and she says it was just a gut feeling, and now that she's here, he can rest easy. He tells her to sit down, as she's going to get sand in the food. Even though his hunger problem has been resolved, it doesn't change the fact that he can't find the tree. Even if they search this place for 3 days, there's no guarantee they'll find it. Then he asks her where a white maple tree would be this early in summer, saying it's a blatant lie. She says it's not a lie, and it looked really pretty when she just saw it. He says yeah, it probably would be really pretty, and then he realizes what she just said, asking her if she said she saw it. She says that she saw it together with him, and he asks if he really saw it, and she says yes, asking him if he took his Alzheimer's medication. We see both staring at something, and he asks if this is what she meant by the white maple tree. She replies yes. He tells her that she should head back, and she asks why. He responds that she needs to get her eyes fixed, questioning how the hell this is a maple tree. She insists that there's nothing wrong with her eyes, saying it's clearly a white maple tree. He replies, yeah, stating it's only his fault for believing her. She starts to get angry, yelling that she isn't lying when she hears a voice, saying that she is not wrong. She turns and is confused. Young Chun says that he took a look because he had no other trails, and he doesn't even know if he'll be able to find it within his time frame. Rather than wasting time, it might be better to head back and receive training from Elder Lee. He then hears a noise and turns, wondering what it is, only to see Sol-ah touching a blue rift. He yells at her, asking what she's doing and telling her it's dangerous, and that she needs to get away. But she ignores him and continues pointing her finger toward it. He runs over, calling her crazy, as the rift begins to open wider and wider. Right as he gets behind her, it's fully open. The light is so bright that he covers his eyes, and when he slowly uncovers them, he's shocked to see that it's a white maple tree. Sol-ah smiles, saying that she told him so and that she knew it was real. He wonders what just happened, saying it was a dying tree earlier, and after she did something, everything changed. He wonders if that was the mechanism created to hide the treasury, asking how she knew and how she did that just now. She asks what he means, and he says just now she did something that made the tree appear. Sol-ah refers to herself in the third person, asking what she did, and he says that's what he wants to know. He explains that when she walked up and touched it, something happened. She seems confused, asking if she really did that. He starts to get annoyed, saying he doesn't think she did it. Of course, she's still playing dumb, and he says that he can question her later. Since he found the tree, now all he has to do is find the treasure. He observes that it doesn't seem to be on the surface. As soon as he peers around the trees, he notices something, a purple aura below the cliff. He walks over and looks down to see that it is a gateway to somewhere, saying this is what they must have meant by under a white maple tree. Sol-ah yells that that's the entrance, and she walks off, yelling that she's going first. He tells her to wait. As she starts to go through the portal, she looks up at him, saying it's his turn. He starts to get annoyed and jumps in, saying that there is no other choice but to follow her. Somebody spots this and begins to grin, no idea if they've introduced this dude before, it's been a while. They land inside, and thankfully the impact was low for the height. He sees Sol-ah and notices that she's clearly debating something. He tells her that it's dangerous, only to see that there are 2 pathways in front of them. He wonders which way to go. She starts to activate all of her brain power and points, saying it's that way. He asks how she knows, and she says that she's sure of it. He thinks about how she found the tree and decides to trust her. She's just surprised he's been agreeing with her all day. He decides to shut up and let it happen. Slowly after they leave, at the entrance, that man enters. Her hair antenna starts to go crazy, and he asks her if this is really the right way, saying they've walked for a while but still don't see the end. It's just getting darker and darker, making him wonder if this is truly the right path. She tells him just to trust her. He tells her to shut up as she continues to activate all of her brain power. She then stops moving, showing him absolutely nothing, saying that they've arrived. He hits her on the back of the head, telling her to stop being annoying. She sits there wondering what she did wrong, while he looks around, saying that the glowstones have lost their light and there's literally nothing here. He asks if this is truly the treasury, and she quickly grabs onto his shoulder, saying that there's something behind them. Something slithers past them, and she screams. Young Chun is surprised as they both watch something tower over them, and she hides behind him, screaming out to him. They are greeted by a giant white snake peering down at them, and they both begin to realize this is bad as they face a demonic beast. She asks him what to do, and he tells her to stay quiet, wondering why a demonic beast is in this place. It was an empty room just seconds ago, and he wonders where it came from. At that size, it's filling up the entire room, and it seems like it's at least a blue-rank demonic beast, and he starts to feel uneasy. He says, thankfully, it doesn't seem to have fully woken up yet. If they just exit quietly. As he looks back at the exit, the snake's second eyelid begins to move, and he wonders why it just woke up and if maybe they need to fight. As Sola is giving one hell of a mean mug from behind, Yang Chun says he doesn't think he can take this, wondering if it'll be okay. He begins to imbue aura into his hand, saying even if he dies, he'll die fighting. The snake calls out to him, saying, "Child, relax yourself." He's just surprised that it spoke, and the snake says it has no intentions of harming him. Yang Chun asks how a demonic beast is speaking the human tongue, and the snake laughs, saying it is curious how a child that is not of the Yun bloodline finds himself here. He says that he was just looking around. The snake realizes something, saying that it understands and begins to smile, asking for what purpose he came here. He says it was just by coincidence, Mr. He wonders if the snake is related to the Yuns. He can't reveal why he's here, but wonders why he just called it a mister. The snake laughs, saying that they are sorry to say, but there are not any items left here. Then it calls out to him. The snake says it wonders what he thinks fate is. He asks what kind of stupid question that is, and the snake is confused at the sudden lack of interest, then suddenly starts to laugh like crazy. He wonders if the snake has gone senile. The snake says it was a pretty silly question, and he should already know just by the fact that a child who is not of the Yuns is here. It means the Yun clan has already passed away. The snake begins to wonder what regrets it has for things that would vanish and for what purpose it endured. Yang Chun puts his hands on Sol Ah, saying they'll be on their way, and awkwardly laughs. Then a golden orb falls to the ground, and he asks what that is. The snake says it's payment for playing along with this old man, and if it's going to enter somebody's hand, it's better that it be him who they've met. Yang Chun is surprised, saying it doesn't seem to be a demonic stone. The snake says someone like him holding such a thing within will be able to take it better than others. He wonders what it means as he grabs onto it. He suddenly begins to feel it getting absorbed into his palm. He says he couldn't sense that it was a demonic stone to begin with, and the absorption technique is going automatically, but it feels different from when he absorbed the demonic stone. A bright light begins to emanate out of his hand as he struggles to control it. He then feels a hand put on his back as Sola is helping him. He's surprised by this and goes to ask about it, but begins to lose consciousness and falls over onto the floor. The snake asks her if she's satisfied, and she says it's not a matter of her satisfaction, and she begins to release her own aura towards the snake, dropping her usual dumb persona. The snake says that she should put her aura away. Such a strong aura will cause something much worse than fainting this time, and she says she already knows that. The snake laughs, saying for someone who already knows that, she's twisted so many things, asking if this is her choice. She asks the snake if they find it too incomprehensible. The snake says no, and they feel worse because they understand. Sol Ah then asks the snake why it handed over such an important crystal to a human they just met. The snake starts to fade out, saying it was just a swing of the mood. Nothing is lonelier than waiting for someone who will not come. Sol Ah stretches her hands out towards one of the floating scales, saying the emptiness of fate, and looking at Yang Chun makes her forget such things. She begins to cry, saying that he is such a regretful man. He fears losing the second chance at life he granted. Yet to protect her, he was still willing to risk it all, as we see tears in her eyes. She then starts to wipe her tears away, saying it will take a little longer as it's still dangerous. As the man from before begins to enter, he asks her how long she has noticed for, and she says it's not hard to pick out the presence of an idiot who does the Namgung clan's dirty work. He starts to tighten the grip on his blade, laughing, saying it's always young brats heading into the mountains and crawling into weird places like this. He lets out a sigh, saying he can't believe that his young master lost someone who got exhausted just from making the journey here. He has been ordered to take care of things quietly, so he will let her off if she hands him over. She asks if this is the will of the Namgung clan or the will of that imbecile. He starts cursing her, saying his name is not for the likes of her to dirty. She puts her finger to his blade, and he says if that's what she wants, then it's inevitable. A bright yellow slash then goes out, but before the man can even react, he looks down to see his arm is on the floor. He starts to scream in pain, and she tells him to be quiet as we see her releasing floating swords like she did in Young Chun's past life, and her hair instantly changes to that color that we saw. She says that he better not wake him up from his nap. It jumps to a flashback as we are outside. There is a Namgung uniform folded up, and somebody is getting some form of medicine. A fist punches the ground as it's none other than Chun Jun, who's pissed about what happened, saying that he must have used some cheap trick. If not, how could he have lost? He rears his fist back and instantly feels a pain in his shoulder, falling forward in pain, and looks to his right, calling out to someone named Makiol. The man appears, asking what he needs, and Chunjun sits back up, asking what he needs to do, saying the guard of the Gu clan is more powerful than they thought, and they don't have the time to take care of him. But for some reason, Yang Chun is moving without his guard right now. Makiol says this might be their chance, and Chunjun starts to grin, saying he always trusted Makiol and knows he'll bring him good news. This is the man in the cave. He says that he's still a member of the Gu clan, asking how far he should go. Chunjun says his shoulder for his life is more than a fair trade for a mutt. He begins to laugh. Bro's nothing but a third-rate villain. Makiol grips onto his blade, saying he understands. Back to the present with his arm on the floor and Sol A's aura starting to pressure him heavily, he asks who she is. She thinks about what to say, saying that she doesn't actually think he needs to know. He asks why someone like her would be here, and she cuts off his other arm, making him scream in pain. She says she's not here to answer questions. She looks down at Young Chun, saying she doesn't have much time. Makiol says that he needs to run. While she's caught up with his brat, he'll take the chance. He instantly starts to run, causing his blood to fly everywhere. He says he needs to return to the clan alive. As he starts to get further, the floor instantly rises right in his face, and he says he's never heard of such a monstrous woman. He wonders why the floor is so close, only to look over to see his body running off without his head. He falls to the floor. Holy, this dude just got butchered. Sola puts her hand up to her chest, saying that she wanted to leave the first life this body takes up to somebody else's jurisdiction, but an intruder like herself decided it, and she apologizes and asks to give it back. She then says sorry, and that it may be selfish of her, and she wonders if she can stay just a little longer. We hear Sol-Ah yelling internally, saying it's her body. She instantly says she's right, and that even the present belongs to her. We see the snake is still fading out and asks Sol-Ah if she's leaving. She says she needs to rest as she did too much in a child's body. The snake asks her if she knows just what kind of being she is. As the floating swords above her begin to leave and her aura starts to get smaller and smaller, all she says is a little. The snake warns her it's going to be a hard journey, and she says she's aware. As the snake fades out, it says that it sees and smiles, wishing to give her a blessing for her path, and it completely fades out this time. Even her aura leaves, and she says that if she has the opportunity, she'd love to meet Young Chun once more. We see her instantly drop her head as she kneels above his body. He jolts awake, looking up at the stars, and the dumb Sola returns, asking if he's awake. He screams and looks around, wondering what's going on, only to see them at the edge of the cliff beside the maple tree. He wonders what just happened. Maybe she has multiple personalities in her body. Thoughts. Young Chun starts to recap, saying they randomly found the white maple tree, the treasury was empty, a massive snake appeared, and he touched that weird orb he gave him, which suddenly got absorbed into his body. He tells Sol-Ah that's all that happened. She's confused, asking if he had a bad dream, and he asks if she really doesn't remember. She says that she doesn't, and he tells her not to lie. She asks how she's meant to believe that she found a maple tree and everything else, saying who would believe that? He wonders why this is the one time she chooses to reason logically. He asks who brought him here then, and she says that she just woke up. He feels a sharp pain in his stomach, and she calls out to him, asking if he's okay. He says he's fine, and he says his core is aching. He then wonders about it, and she asks if it hurts a lot. He starts to sit down, getting into a meditation stance and channels his aura, saying exactly as he thought. There has been a change in the amount of energy flowing into his body ever since he absorbed the orb. This amount is almost enough to reach the 4th star. That means his memories aren't wrong, and he wonders if the snake moved them and wiped Sola's memories, saying that would make the most sense. Bro is getting played. She tells him that if it hurts, they should go back, and he says that he's fine, but taking longer would only increase the length of Muyen's wrath that he'll have to deal with. He thinks about something and tells her to get on. She asks why, and he says it'll take 2 hours if they walk, and it's faster for him to carry her. She tells him that she ate a lot yesterday, and he asks if she won't get on. She twiddles her fingers, saying that she guesses she will. She asks if she's not heavy, and he says that she's not light, that is for sure. She says that she'll get off now. But Young Chun, with the flame wheel arts at 3 stars and this overflowing energy, crouches down and bursts off the cliff at hellish fast speeds, and starts to pretty much run straight down it, saying that his body used to feel so heavy, now he feels as light as a feather. As he's instantly jumping around the mountaintops, like they were stepping stones, the sun starts to rise. They both look at it as it's a really pretty sight, and they get excited. It jumps back to Muyen biting his nails, saying he hasn't seen Young Chun for over a day, wondering if he's okay, saying that if he's not, his neck will get taken off. He then hears Young Chun saying they're here and to get off, and he asks Muyen what he's doing here. Muyen says he was gone for a full day without a single word. Young Chun laughs, saying that he's sorry, and he thinks that they should have focused on how he's come back safely. Muyen starts to cry, saying he was worried about what might have happened to him, and then asked where he's been. Sol-Ah goes to say that they met a snake, and he covers her mouth, saying that they just went on a walk. She tries to keep talking, and Muyen asks what kind of walk they went on and what happened to him. And Young Chun laughs, saying it was a bit of good luck. Muyen can tell that he's already changed, Young Chun says, as expected of a first rate. Then he wonders why he senses 2 more people. Muyen thinks about what to say, as we see both Soyeol and Bia sitting at a table eating breakfast in their room. Soyeol spots him and starts to freak out while Bia just keeps munching. Young Chun asks Soyeol if she was waiting for him and tells Bia he thought she was gonna leave him alone. Soyeol says that she wasn't waiting particularly for him. Bia speaks in Minecraft enchantment table. He wonders what they're both here for, and Soyeol says she's here to wish them farewell, and Bia says that she never said bye. Now Sol-Ah is munching. He wonders if the heir of the Namgung is also here. And Bia says that he did not come, and after she told Chunjun she was coming here, he said that Young Chun wouldn't be back anyways. He wonders what that means. Bia stops eating for a second and says that she has a question, asking if he'll answer it, and points her chopsticks at him, asking what happened to him. He turns, saying that it was just something. Soyeol goes to ask if he likes poison or knives, and Bia starts to release her aura, saying that she would love to have a duel. He says that he's going to faint from training too much. Muyen asks if he's okay and realizes that he's just acting and quickly kicks out both Soyeol and Bia, saying that he needs to rest. Soyeol says that she would just like one last thing, then hands him an invitation to next year's exhibition, asking if he would like to come or not. He probably won't come, but he says that he'll see her next year. She blushes, saying that she just wants their families to be on good terms and he shouldn't take it the wrong way. The door then closes, and she tries to play it off, saying that she was worried about that ugly guy, but she guesses he's okay. She looks up at Bia, noticing how happy she is, and her mood instantly changes. She decides to ask her if she perhaps likes Young Chun or not. Biaz's expression goes blank. She opens her mouth, asking what she means by like. Soyeol starts to panic and touches her fingers together, saying to like someone, and then instantly says never mind. Bia, confused, asks about her invitation to the exhibition. She says that she was going to give the invitation that she gave to Young Chun to her and she's sorry and she should have prepared 2 invites. Bia says it's okay and pats her head, saying good job, and Soyeol thanks her, saying she's the best and that she'll make sure she serves delicious poison in return and they should go. Bia wonders why poison, and then as Soyeol starts to run, she feels an overwhelming sense of dread and control loom over her, and she puts her hands together, saying that she can endure it. She starts to blush, saying that she thinks that she'll meet Young Chun again here soon. At a very fancy pagoda, we see Chunjun bowing to somebody, presumably his father. Who it is, and he tells Chunjun that he merely told him to take care of his sister, yet he lost one of his guards, calling him immature. He wonders why his guard hasn't returned, wondering if that means he failed or if he succeeded, but says it's impossible for him to fail as he's a top-rate martial artist, wondering why he's not back yet. His father then calls out to him, and Chunjun looks up only to see his father raise his foot and lightly tap it down, crushing the ground beneath him as he releases his aura, asking if he knows what he disappointed in him. Chunjun starts to feel overwhelmed. His father continues, saying it's not that he lost to some nameless child, nor the fact that he used killing strikes in a sparring match, it is the fact that he couldn't clean up after himself properly. Chunjun sits there in silence, and his father says he shall not hold him at fault, but he should confine himself to solitary training in the gallery for a while. Chunjun is gassed out, but says he understands, and then his father releases his aura and walks past him. He mentions the Gu clan. Chunjun asks what he means and starts to get a little annoyed but instantly gets a shiver down his spine as his father gives him a cold glare. Chunjun averts his gaze, and his father says when he becomes the clan head, he'll understand what he means, and he shouldn't touch the Gu clan until then, and moreover they might end up becoming one family with them. Chunjun says yes and then wonders what the hell he means and turns to ask. On the other side, Yangchun is also asking somebody to repeat himself as it's none other than Elder Li, asking if he didn't hear him saying that his marriage partner has been arranged. Yangchun says he's tired because of the trip and asks if he's kidding about a fiancé, saying they just broke their marriage agreement with the Peng clan. Elder Li says he heard it was because he was messing around, and Yangchun asks why the person who messed around is getting another fiancé. Elder Li asks if he plans to live his life alone. Yangchun just wonders why the conversation is going there, and Elder Li says if not he should just do it as this old man has made a connection for him. Sol Ah then asks what he means by fiancé, and Yangchun asks if she really believed him, saying that Elder Li is just messing with them. Sol Ah wonders if fiancé is food, and Muyan runs up, saying he is telling the truth. He went to report on his travels in Sichuan, but the whole clan seems to know about his new fiancé. Yangchun wonders what to do, saying with what he did to Ahui, the rumors should have been pretty bad about him, yet now people want to get engaged with him, and he wonders what crazy clan that was, so he decides to ask Elder Li, asking which clan it is, and more importantly, who. Elder Li laughs, saying he shouldn't be too surprised and that in the first syllable he gets out as Nam, and Yangchun instantly realizes who, as they both say the Namgung clan at the same time. Yangchun asks why they want to be engaged with him in the first place and that must the daughters already accepted it, and he recalls that they only have one daughter. Elder Li says he probably met her at the exhibition. Yangchun starts to think about it and instantly realizes that it's none other than Bia. Yangchun asks why he has to get engaged to that crazy bitch, and Li tells him that he shouldn't say that about his future fiancé. Yangchun says he definitely won't. Li continues, saying that it's the family's decision, so he needs to ask his father more, but there's something else they need to talk about. Yangchun asks what's more important than this, and Li starts to laugh, telling him that his sister has returned. Yangchun starts to get a bad feeling upon hearing this as we see her walking somewhere. As one of the three Supremes, the Aura Supreme said, "Now is the age of meteors. As stars pierce the sky and fall to the ground, more and more geniuses appear every day." He tells Yangchun that he was born in such an age, but it's the wrong era. He has talent, but it's strange, compared to his sisters, it's worthless. His sister, Hui Bai, is the owner of the talent and skill he could never hope to reach, which is why he hated her. He starts to look around, saying that he needs to run, deciding that it doesn't really matter where to, he just has to go. But Li stops him, asking where he thinks he's going. Yangchun asks if he could let him go just this one time. Li asks why he's saying this, saying that his sister is here. Yangchun continues, asking him to just let him off this one time. Li gets annoyed that he's going to ignore his sister when she's finally home. Yangchun asks how he's meant to face her when he doesn't know what she might do to him, and he says he'll be gone for a few months, so he shouldn't bother finding him. Li puts his hand on his head, asking if he caught something in Sichuan, and why he's being so immature, saying it makes him want to hit him. Yangchun immediately fuels her aura, and he says that she's coming here as we see she's directly behind the gate. He tells Muyan to go block the door now, and Muyan asks how he's meant to block it. Yangchun tells him to use a plank or something. Bro really pulled out a broom. Muyan asks if he's sure that he can do this when his sister is coming, and then he hears her laughing. He looks towards the door. Hui Bai puts her hand on it, saying that he knew his sister was coming yet he still tried to do this, and begins to burn the door. Hui Bai begins to peer through the hole she created and immediately explodes it, sending Muyan flying. She walks in, telling Yangchun that was very rude of him. He's just in disbelief that she's actually here and starts to feel a sense of dread. She waves, telling him to come over. He goes to turn, but Li stops him, saying that he needs to greet his sister. So he does so. She says that it's good to see him doing so well, but she notices that his knees are upright. He says of course they are, leaving him confused. Then he immediately starts to put them together and kneels in front of her, and she pats his head, calling him a good boy. Lee laughs the entire time. She says it's been a while, and Lee says it's good to see siblings being friendly. Young-chun wonders if he's blind. Lee says it's good to see her doing well and that he heard she was doing a good job as the leader of the sword squad. She laughs, saying that he praises her too much, and that it's thanks to her squad members. Young-chun says this is the way he wanted to run. Hui Bai then calls out to him and asks if he knows what he did wrong. He says that he tried to block the door. She asks what else, and he says that he tried to run. She didn't know this part, and he realizes that he made a mistake. He then asks if she was talking about him defeating Yonseo. She didn't know about this either and is confused, asking if he really beat Yonseo. He says if it's not that, he wonders what he did to upset her. She puts her hand on his head, saying that it was about his engagement. Why wasn't she the first one he told about getting married? She raises her fist and begins to imbue aura into it, saying it was also without her permission. He says that he heard about it for the first time today and asks why he needs to get her permission to get engaged. She starts spinning her fist up for maximum damage while Lee is still laughing. Young-chun begs Muyan to help, so he tries to negotiate, but she glares at him, and he immediately cowers, saying that she can do whatever she wants. Hui Bai says that she'll need to teach him manners again, and he tries to tell her to wait. When she goes to punch, Sola screams no and stops her hand, which confuses both of them. Young-chun tells Sola to stay still and then explains to his sister that she hasn't worked here for long, so she doesn't know. Hui Bai looks down at her and sees Sola desperately trying to hold onto her hand, saying that she can't hit the young master. Hui Bai then takes her hands off of Young-chun's head and begins to release her aura, and Young-chun wonders what she's doing. Hui Bai calls out to him, asking who Sola is. Young-chun quickly explains that she's new here and she just made a mistake. But it looks like Hui Bai isn't going to listen to him as she begins to imbue aura into her hand. Young-chun quickly starts running directly at her, and Sola closes her eyes, expecting the worst. But instead, Hui Bai just pinches her cheeks, absolutely confusing the hell out of her. Then Young-chun sits there, stunned. Hui Bai says that her cheeks look so soft and they actually live up to her expectations. Young-chun asks why she released that much energy just to grab her cheeks. But Hui Bai completely ignores him, saying that she can't believe he didn't tell her about a servant like this, and then he needs to hand her over. Young-chun says no, and Hui Bai says that's interesting, and Young-chun starts to stand up, asking what she means. She continues to say that she can't believe that her dear brother, who normally gives his lovely sister everything, is refusing. Then she asks him who said he could get up, and he quickly gets back to his knees. Then she glances back down at him, asking elderly if the changes in Young-chun were by him. Young-chun says that her noticing was inevitable. Lee says that he did absolutely nothing, and Hui Bai is surprised that he changed that much in a few months. She even laughs about it, and she can tell that he looks a little nervous. She then stops herself from saying whatever she was going to, and instead shoos him away, saying he should go meet their father. And she was going to teach him a lesson, but she's not in the mood anymore. Young-chun says that's a relief, and he looks back at her, saying that they'll be on their way. She tells him to wait and throws something at him. He holds his hand out and catches it, and we see some kind of necklace. Young-chun wonders what it is, since he doesn't sense anything, so he asks her, but she only says it's a souvenir, and she bought it from a peddler saying it was a good luck charm. He needs to keep it by his side, or she'll be mad if he doesn't. And if he ends up losing it because he thinks it's dingy, she might have to get more lovely, and she starts to squeeze his shoulder. He gets freaked out and says okay, and then she starts to smile and loosens up her grip and laughs, saying that she knew he was hardworking. While giving off a warm expression, he recalls her final moments in his past life, how she told him to stay happy. He starts to feel touched and says okay. After they leave, Hui Bai asks elderly if he really didn't do anything, and he tells her that he already said no. Hui Bai says last winter he was only at the proficiency of a first star. Compared to Yonseo, he wasn't able to release heat, much less move properly. But now his energy arts have stabilized and his ki has more than doubled, and that his body is much more trained. When she heard that Yonseo was undergoing solitary training after losing to him, she had her suspicions, but she wonders how he grew so fast. Elder Lee says it's quite amazing, and he was surprised as well. He had no clue that child had that much potential. Hui Bai asks what he thinks happened, and Lee just wonders why she didn't ask Young-chun himself. She says that she could tell that he wouldn't explain it to her, so she didn't bother. Elder Lee says that he might actually answer her since she's his sister. She says that she knows him very well and can tell by his eyes that he wouldn't answer her. Then she says on the topic of noticing stuff, and Elder Lee wonders what she's going to say next, and she asks if he noticed the servant. Lee asks what about her, and Hui Bai says that she was only asking because she was wondering if he could tell that something was off about her. She wasn't sure, so she inspected her because her cheeks were a bit chubby. Elder Lee quickly starts to sweat nervously, saying that she might just be too sensitive and she is just a servant. Hui Bai guesses that she just made a mistake after fighting demonic beasts for months and that she overreacted to nothing. Elder Lee starts to laugh, saying he can't believe she noticed that, and that both her and Young Chun truly have fearsome potential. He then pats her head, saying even though everybody else in the clan is turning their back on Young Chun, he is very grateful to her as she is not like that and she is sticking with him till the end, and he has no worries now that she's back. She laughs, saying someone has to take care of her stupid brother. Lee says that she should be a little kinder to him, and getting mad at him over an engagement is too much. Now people might think that she got mad at him for getting engaged in the first place. She starts to release her energy, asking what kind of whore would dare touch her brother. Elder Lee says she high-key a freak. It jumps to Young Chun's father, saying that he heard he broke the arm of the lightning dragon. Young Chun looks uncomfortable and says he didn't break it, he only tapped it a little, and they sit there in awkward silence. If you've watched till the end, comment, pick it, to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.